his way to Paris.
Talk Sport.
With your headlines, it's just coming up to 1 minute past 10. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. Les Ferdinand is calling for a stand at St James's Park to be renamed in Kevin Keegan's honour. Warren Barton also played for Keegan's Entertainers, his must-watch Newcastle side of the 90s, alongside Ferdinand, Alan Shearer, Tino Asprilla and David Ginola.
He would treat us all differently, but knew how to press our buttons and make sure that we was going out there, and made it pretty clear earlier on that we was playing for the fans. They was working hard Monday to Friday, and we better bloody go out there and perform for the fans.
Following his death at 75 weeks after being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, the two-time Ballon d'Or winner Kevin Keegan has been described as a superstar who kept his feet on the ground. Henry Winter says he was a joy to deal with as a journalist.
You could fall out with him if you critiqued him on certain things with England. Gareth Southgate in midfield, famously or infamously against Germany, the last game at the old Wembley. And then you could fall back in with him within seconds because he was such an enthusiastic character.
Henry also told us about Keegan once training the press football team.
You just came away totally enthused and feeling like you too could be a Ballon d'Or winner.
Kevin's family say he was a much-loved husband, father and grandfather. Elsewhere, we're expecting Arsenal to make another bid for Newcastle captain Bruno Guimaraes. We're also told Arsenal were only prepared to pay $80 million for Morgan Rogers. He's gone to Chelsea for 117. We understand Alex Scott's turned down a new contract at Bournemouth. The club expect him to play for them next season. And Vinicius Jr. has had facial harmonisation surgery in Brazil to make his chin stronger and more defined. Fans online are saying Vinny Jr. now looks more like former Chelsea midfielder Ramirez. You can check out the pictures for yourself at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
The Prime Minister's questioned on how he's going to fund a VAT cut on electricity bills and the motorways that make us most mad. Sangeeta has more on that in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. The season's changing, so get your car's shim pads and studs checked for summer with a free vehicle safety check. Book in centre or at quickfit.com today.
Largely dry day, few light showers across northern coasts, though feeling warm in the sun, especially in the south.
Hello, a very good morning to you. I'm Alex Crook alongside the former Newcastle, West Ham and Bolton midfielder Kevin Nolan for the next 3 hours. So, Pep Guardiola is reportedly in talks with Italy over becoming their new manager. Does raise the question, do the English FA need to get in there while they still have a chance? Or will this country always struggle at major tournaments until we develop and back a very top manager of our own? Harry Kane is the bookmakers' favourite for the Ballon d'Or, but do England have a big number 9 problem on the horizon? We'll also discuss why Jarrod Bowen has decided to play championship football next season and what on earth is next for Marcus Rashford. The summer transfer window is also hotting up, with Morgan Rogers on the verge of joining Chelsea and Alex Scott not signing a new contract at Bournemouth. And of course, we'll pay tribute to the life and career of a true English footballing legend, Kevin Keegan, following his sad passing yesterday. This is Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan, and we're live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
And if you want to pay tribute to the late, great Kevin Keegan, give us a call, 03717 223344. Alongside me is the former Newcastle, West Ham and Bolton midfielder Kevin Nolan. Good to see you, Kev.
You too, mate. Thanks for inviting me on.
Are you summering well?
I am, yeah. I'm enjoying it, mate. Yeah, it's been nice. Obviously, you do miss the hustle and bustle of the everyday. of being in it, but there's no better place to be than with Crookie on talkSPORT, mate, for second best, if you like.
And how are you feeling about the World Cup now, following England's semi-final exit and the final on Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think overall I thought it was a fantastic World Cup. It was overshadowed, I think, and it's a real shame that it ended the way it did. But I thought the best thing is that Spain won it, and that was for everybody. Considering the manner in which the ending of the game was seen, and obviously just not ugly scenes which you don't want to really be seeing at football games anyway. But look, let's take all that away. I think Spain were probably the best team throughout, grew with the tournament and were worthy winners, and what a fantastic squad they've got now, and could go on and rule again, and going to be another tough Euros in 2 years' time for England, who obviously went out sort of with a whim, really, after the first 60 minutes, where you think, yeah, we've got them here and we can go on now and sort of put them to the sword, and it just didn't happen.
And this feels like the first sort of day of post-World Cup blues. The last of the talkSPORT team have left the US. The cowboy hat Dallas that has been on my head for the last 5.5 weeks has been consigned to the cupboard.
Some lovely pictures there, but yeah, I mean, looking at you there, seeing you in with your hat on, you look like you enjoyed your time, mate, over there.
I embrace the culture.
Brilliant, yeah.
It's safe to say.
I'd expect nothing less, Cook.
Let's talk about this story doing the rounds overnight about Pep Guardiola and Italy. Italy, of course, not part of the World Cup jamboree. Does raise the question, Kev, because we know now that there was a verbal agreement in place between the English FA and Pep Guardiola as recently as 2024. Obviously, that didn't quite happen in the end. If he is serious, Guardiola, about taking an international job, in the wake of that collapse against Argentina, is there an argument for the FA making a play now for Guardiola and deciding to pivot from Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah, look, I'd love nothing more than to see Pep in charge of our national team. And I think not only that, I think he'll give us something which will give us direction for not only just for the next 2 years, 4 years. He could help the FA within it, and I've been part of that. I know the culture and the DNA of what Thomas was talking about in last week, and what they're trying to achieve. But I think Pep could add something different. I think he's got something. He'll give us a style. He'll give us an identity of what he sees the game, how he sees it, and I think he'll be one who'll want to help everybody all down the line, if you like, the 21s, the 18s. I think he'll bring it all together so that it's all aligned and everything else, because I think that's probably what's needed now after Gareth and what he done, and was when everybody forgets a fantastic job what he done behind the scenes and everything else. We then went to Thomas to go and win us the trophy to get us over it. It hasn't happened. So if there's an opportunity now where our number one target of 2 years ago is available, and it's funny that his representatives have put this out that he's speaking to Italy now. Yeah. So does that say that he does want this? He wants this now, maybe?
Because England's a better job, isn't it? I mean, you look at Italy, they failed to qualify for 3 consecutive World Cups now. They haven't got the sort of golden generation they've had in the past. And you look at England and the talent that Thomas Tuchel had at his disposal.
And we've won the last 2 under-21 championships under Lee Carsley, which is a brilliant achievement. So he'll be looking at all that, Pep, and be thinking, what can I achieve with these lads and taking it. And I think everybody with a Pep Guardiola as the country's sort of main man, if you like, will sort of sit back and go, okay, now let's see what we can do and achieve. And I believe that he could be, I know he's never done international, but this is the next step. Yeah.
Does it translate necessarily? Because we know how intense Pep Guardiola is day in, day out on the training pitch at club level. Obviously, you don't get that amount of time with your players at international level. So is it guaranteed that he would be able to be as successful in the international arena?
I think that's why you look at the likes of Spain and, the way they've brought this sort of generation up. This is no fluke that Spain have got this going on over the last Euros and now winning a World Cup in the last week. Because the manager was the 21s manager with a lot of these players, and he's then handpicked the ones who he wanted and thought could help these lads to grow in tournaments and everything else. And I think that's how probably Pep would look at it. And so I don't think it'd be instant success, but I think it'd help the FA and it'd help the English game for a long, long time if we were sort of to appoint Pep on a longer term basis more than a let's go and win the Euros in 2 years' time, the World Cup in 4. I think this is a more, longer term process.
We are talking about this. Obviously, England do still have a manager in situ. The FA have made it clear Thomas Tuchel retains their backing despite that semi-final exit and the nature of it to Argentina. Tuchel clearly doesn't have any plans to fall on his sword. Where do you stand? Because Martin Keown was in that chair yesterday. Got a little bit spiky, as you'd expect from Martin. I said that Tuchel should offer his resignation. Martin felt that was too reactionary. Where do you stand? You've been a coach.
Yeah.
Talk me through that final 25 minutes, because for me, it was the most bamboozling decision I've seen from probably any England manager to do what he did and hand the initiative to Argentina.
Yeah, and I think that's why we all, because this is what we thought Thomas was brought in for. So I think that's why everybody sort of, there's been the reaction what there has been, and people have been able to say what they sort of want to say, because no one can sort of argue. You can argue either side, and I don't think anyone's wrong. I think from Thomas's side, if it was me, I wouldn't be resigning. I'd be wanting to think, no, I've learned a lot in him.
Would you come out and admit publicly you made a mistake, though? Because he hasn't really done that.
I think that's where I've been disappointed with it all. I think, because at the end of the day, when you look at it, and when you look at the two benches, the Argentinian manager, he reacted in a positive way. He knew what he needed to do. Now, I know that sometimes it's desperation, but he reacted with his first set of subs. And then he sort of, because you're looking at the other bench and thinking, right, am I going to see Saka? Am I going to see Rashford in the next 10 minutes? Am I going to see Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins, who could help, who could run in behind and maybe get one of my centre-half sent-off? He's putting all that, Scaloni's putting all that in because he'd made that substitution with Tagliafico, where he's brought him off dozens of times in them moments against Egypt, when he's won his game back, when he's won the game back in them final minutes, and you see him, he's tentative to do it really early on. And then in the end he does it, and that's what gets them back in the game without us sort of reacting to him. And I think he's reacted off the back of what Thomas done, and he's come up dividends with it. And I think that's where we would expect Thomas to be going, right, okay, we've taken Gordon off, now let's get a Rashford on, or Ollie Watkins, or someone who's going to get us back in the game, get us back up the field, and start dominating the ball back in their half. Even not dominating the ball, but playing more football in their half.
I'd just love to know what the plan was. Had we have limped into extra time? Because to me, he'd not given himself any way to go. Thomas Tuchel in that extra half an hour.
And that would have been the problem, because... But listen, Argentina would have had the problem as well, because they had a lot of attack-minded players on the team. So how would they have settled once they knew that it was going into extra time? So it's all ifs and buts, Crookie. But what I would say is that I was just disappointed after we go on 1-0 up. It was just a huge disappointment to see, because that's where we've ultimately failed in the years with Gareth. And Gareth got a lot of stick for doing a lot of good for England, and was sort of criticised after each tournament because of that. And then we brought Thomas in for them moments, and when he's got to them moments, and let's not forget, you look at it, and sometimes coaches get into that belief that you've got through, when you got through with Congo, you get through with Mexico, you sort of get through with Norway that way, and then all of a sudden you get to Argentina, you go, oh, this could be the one where we get through again. But I think sometimes you've got to have plan B, plan C, and it didn't seem that we had that. It didn't seem that we prepped for a game where we were 1-0 up, we're going into a game for the last 15 minutes, and a lot of the lads, and you send a message on with your substitutions as a coach as well, so you can never hide away from that. And I think that's where I've been disappointed, because Thomas should have said, me putting them on, and sort of sometimes, and I think we all seen it, but it looked like no one really knew where they were or where they were going, and it looked all just a bit rushed and a bit sort of manic for my liking.
So would you swap Thomas Tuchel for Pep Guardiola? That's the burning question this morning. Guardiola in talks with the Italian Football Association. 03717 22 3344 is the number. We are going to be asking in the next part of the programme, though, is English football broken until it develops one of its own top coaches? You're listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco, Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
is a line
that
you should not overstep, and they overstepped it communally numerous times.
Got to be a long ban.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you look at it, Jeff, if you watch it back 5 or 6 times, Paredes, what we say, on Garcia, he grabs his neck, and the way Garcia's neck, after the game, Garcia's neck jolts. That's assault.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like, it's assault.
Like you, Stuart Pearce believes that the Argentinian midfielder needs an incredibly strong punishment.
But you've got to say, and just to back up exactly what you've just said there, sometimes in life and in football, what goes round comes round. And that's exactly what's happened to Argentina today. And I'm sure FIFA will see the punch that was thrown at the end of the game, and obviously they were quite happy to extend a 6-game ban for a Qatari player. And I'm sure when they see a punch like that, it'll probably warranty a 20-game ban. I'm sure FIFA will be right on top of this, Aid.
Yeah. Well, they should be, because something's got to be done to stop.
You want to feel
like
safe on the pitch, don't you, Jeff? Do you know what I mean? You can't let the punishment has to be that big that no one ever does that.
It is assault. You've got it absolutely right.
No matter what happens in football, you can be angry you lost, but be classy in defeat.
Yeah.
Don't like. Do you know what I mean? If you want to fight, Paredes, there's places to fight. You're listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT. Myself, Alex Crook, the former Newcastle, West Ham and Bolton midfielder Kevin Nolan with you all the way through until 1 o'clock. We've been asking the question this morning, should the FA pivot from Thomas Tuchel to Pep Guardiola? Guardiola in talks with the Italian Football Federation. They sent Tuchel to win the World Cup 2026 and didn't. Why set Pep up not to win the Euros and World Cup 30? We must be thinking long-term, says Craig. He also said Pep won't take the job. It's a poison chalice and will damage his reputation if he doesn't get England over the line. Stuart Bremner says, lads, I'm Scottish, so I don't care who your next manager is. However, it baffles me that Lee Carsley is not getting a go. Kev literally just said he managed the under-21 to 2 competition wins, so we'll know the next generation inside out. Pep doesn't guarantee success, just like Tuchel. Carsley guarantees passion and player knowledge. Go for Pep. It won't change anything. That's interesting because it brings us on to a column that Martin Samuels wrote in the Times this weekend. He says there's a reason why a foreign manager has never won the World Cup, and it is this. Appointing one is an admission that your system is broken. Countries with broken systems do not win the World Cup. Not being able to produce your own coach and not having the will or patience to work on putting that right suggests something is rotten at the core. The progress and success of Luis de la Fuente and Lionel Scaloni expose this as a lie. You can do it yourself. What Spain and Argentina have done is hard. What England are attempting is lazy. So I guess this is almost a complete 360 turn from what we're talking about Pep Guardiola. Does he have a point, Kev? I mean, you look at Lee Carsley, you can argue he didn't cover himself in glory during that caretaker tenure, but De La Fuente was promoted from within the Spanish system. So was Scaloni. Was that not the whole idea of St George's Park?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that was the the original plan is for people coming through the ranks as well, good English coaches and everything else. I think when it happened and Lee took the job and then we didn't have the success what we all believed that he would bring us in them games, if you like, we got a bit jittery, and that's where we ended up with Thomas.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm sort of not with. I mean, a lot of that is, you could probably argue that is right what Martin's saying there, but I think if you've got someone of Pep's calibre who's out of work, who's probably done everything now in the English game, in the German, in Spain. Where's he got to go next? If he's going to go internationally, I think it's someone you cannot sort of look away from.
And he probably wouldn't manage Spain because he sees himself as Catalan.
So he's never going to manage Spain. I think he's actually said that in interviews previously. So what's the next best thing? And you know, you're looking at probably us, Brazil. But Ancelotti being in there, Thomas Tuchel being in there, you've got two massive managers. So will someone, you know, sort of bite first? I'll be honest with you, I think if you get Pep Guardiola in the FA, I think it'll only be a good thing. It's to see what he's done with Man City, and he's been part of that project from top to bottom, you know, to making it the professional outfit that it is. You know, the youngsters, even the way they are, you know, the way they recruit, everything else. So for me, I think it'll be great for English managers to learn off Pep, because you will have full access, because you'll be at St George's, you know, you'll be rubbing shoulders with him on a daily basis, because, you know, when I was with the FA, that's what happens. We used to see Gareth lots and lots of times when we were there. So I think it'll only be a positive thing if we were to get someone of Pep's calibre. And he's lived here for 10 years now, you know, let's not forget that. So he knows the culture, he knows exactly what it is, and he can help the future of the FA, I believe.
I'm still a little bit baffled. I'll go back to Berlin and that European Championship final. I think we all sensed, us journalists working on the tournament, that whatever happened in that final against Spain, obviously we ended up losing the game, Gareth Southgate would stand down. If we knew that, why did the FA not have a succession plan in place? Why did we even have to go down the interim manager route? And obviously then we've ended up with another overseas appointment. Surely there needs to be some form of succession plan all of the time.
Yeah, and
because that's what the best clubs do. You know, take Brighton, for example.
Yeah,
Fabian Hurst obviously get poached by a bigger club.
Palace have been like that now at the moment, haven't he?
And I think they know already, Brighton, who their next manager is going to be.
Yeah.
So surely an institution like the FA should operate in the same professional manner.
And I think that's where you know they probably become a bit just more expectant on the fact that Gareth would probably see it through, because he's got to a final. He's not going to drop out. I think that's what, and it sort of hit them right quick. And I think they were sort of hoping that Lee would be able to step up, and it'd just all go plain sailing, and then becoming that interim manager would then come of him being, because let's remember, that's what Gareth was.
But again, if that's the plan, don't deviate from it. Just because you lose a game to Greece, don't panic.
But there was that
go in a completely different direction.
But there was that much negativity towards the English team because of losing the final, because of not getting there again, not getting over the line. That as soon as they didn't do so well in the next games on the league, everything just sort of snowballed and just got bigger and bigger, and it was just, and I just felt that it was like, you know, he was never ever going to give an opportunity unless he went out and won 4-0, 4-0. Everybody would be going, give him the job. As soon as that didn't happen, it was like, oh, actually he's not ready, he's not this, he's not that. So we've got to sometimes, you know, take a deep breath, and I think that's where it was needed. And I think we reacted too quickly to what Lee done in them games.
Let's bring Andy the Spurs fan. He's got 0371722 3344. Andy, what's your view on this? Do we need an English manager? Do we need to stick with Thomas Tuchel, or do we need to pivot to Guardiola?
I think the obvious choice here is we get Pep Guardiola on a pre-contract, so we all know that he needs some time off having managed Man City. He can have a year off. We sign him up on a pre-contract. Tuchel can carry on in the meantime, and we keep it quiet from the press. If for whatever reason we don't keep it quiet from the press and Tuchel finds out, he can resign and walk away in a strop. We save ourselves 4 or 5 million on his wages. If he decides to stay on, we can sack him at the end when Pep's ready to go, because all he's going to do is play the qualifying games for the Euros, where we're playing Andorra, San Marino, games that he's going to win anyway. Pep has his time off, and we're ready to go in a year's time with a build-up to the Euros.
Okay, Andy, cheers for that call. Nick has called us all the way from Perth in Australia. Nick, you're pretty clear on this, aren't you? Thomas Tuchel has to go.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think one of the things that, the previous caller just mentioned there, we've got to remember, it's probably the only industry where you can earn £5 million a year, fail, and then nothing gets said about that, because...
That's why Kev's so desperate to be a manager.
Yeah, exactly, Kevin. I wouldn't blame you, mate. You're set for life then, aren't you? Yeah. But it is, his decision-making, I've sat up and watched England over here since 1993 when I come over. I used to get coached by Mickey Brazil, and we used to talk about, that's Alan's brother. So he made a massive error. He did something and he's got no regrets. Now, it's nice to be £5 million rich and no regrets. By the time he leaves the England setup and we don't win the Euros for whatever reason, he's probably about 40, 50 million in his back pocket. So it's not a bad shift for him, is it, considering he's got no regrets? I just find it a little bit... I'd like a little bit more honesty from him, a little bit more regret, and a little bit more, well, listen, I've learned from this. And then we can all probably think, well, OK, we still make our minds up and say, well, I still don't want you in because you were brought in to make a difference and you haven't made a difference. We were poor in the World Cup. We were actually poor. Most games, we were poor. We didn't show much at all. So I can't see any progress, to be honest. I think the players also didn't deserve the comments that he said about the fact that it was them rather than him. You know, and that's unusual. Usually the players are getting the beef of the problem, but on this occasion, I think basically let them down.
Yeah, Nick, brilliant call. Thank you for dialing 0371722 3344. Keep them coming this morning. Kev Nolan and myself with you all the way through until 1 o'clock. I said it yesterday, Kev. He came out and said, if you need someone to blame me. But that's not an apology, is it? That's like saying, I'm sorry you're offended.
Yeah. And I think that's why, I mean, look, we all like Thomas's press conferences after the games, and when we won, okay, I'm not really too happy, but you know, we've got to get better, all this type of stuff. We all like that. And then, you know, we had the bit where the players were accusing Gabriel of trying to put a thing in between the manager and players. But the thing is, when you look at it, and as a manager, and when he goes and reviews it, are we going to get something in the next month or two? Because that's what you do. You know, when you've been in these tournaments, you go and review, and you sit down with all your staff and everybody, you know, around, and you come out and the next press conference is going to be one of them. Look, I haven't reviewed it and hasn't seen it, but I would expect someone of his calibre to be able to see it right away and know that after the game, look, I got a couple of things wrong here. And that's what I think I was sort of looking for, and I think that's what you've got to sort of do, and what we would come to expect. That's what I come to expect from Thomas, and I don't think we got it, and I think that's why the backlash has been so severe this time as well, because we obviously employed Thomas to do a job to get us to that point, and then when we're at that point, to then take us to the next point, and it hasn't worked. So, you know, I think all of it is why there's been such a backlash towards him.
And Nick was right there for me. You know, we didn't really play well, barring that second half. Probably in the first game was in Croatia. It was a tournament of moments for England, as opposed to
and you need that though in competition though, because
you've
never been.
But you also,
we
want to control a game in the way the Spanish did.
Yeah, of course. But as he had enough time with them, as he, you know, because he flipped the squad around a lot of times, but. I was speaking to a friend after the game, and I said, you know, when we played Japan and when we played Senegal in them two games before, you know, the ones which weren't the qualifying group games, we sort of struggled, and that was a bit
struggled for the qualifier. I mean, I know we didn't concede a goal, but do you remember the performance away in Andorra?
Yeah,
turgid.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where where it's something. Why there is the question marks over it at this moment in time. And as I said, I really believed afterwards. We shouldn't get rid of him. I really believe that. But what I will say is that if Pep Guardiola is available, then we can't afford to turn him down if we can get him to be the English boss.
Yeah, and actually a lot of people seem to agree with you on the text. Get Pep in. The objective was to win the World Cup. Tuchel failed. Move on to the next, says Darren. Pep is the best person. There's a great chance of teaching us how to beat the Spanish system. Must get Pep, says Ben. Get rid of Tuchel, make Carsley head coach, and put a manager with him to cover interviews and media stuff. He did struggle a bit with that, Lee. That's from Howard in Barnes. In my opinion, every national team should have a coach from their home country. If the best we have at the time is not as world-class as others at that point, then so be it. That's Dan, who's an Ipswich fan. Keep them coming.
Carsley's Republic of Ireland.
Well, someone's made that point, actually. Carsley is a foreign manager. Secondly, enough of the succession plan. You can't lock in the top managers, only young managers in lesser leagues. That's from a Brighton fan. 0371722 3344 is the number. I had a bit of post-World Cup brain fog then. Next up here on talkSPORT, we're going to be paying tribute to the late, great Kevin Keegan.
who would have even dreamt that 6-4 would be the scoreline in
a madness,
the third and fourth place game?
A 10-goal quote-unquote thriller, an absolute candy floss
And you see
of a
the
game
amount
of
of chances
football.
that were missed as well.
Oh, I watched it live last night, and I went back over. My notes from when I'm watching a game are often an absolute madness when I read back over them. And I'm like,
Are you on little bits of paper or is it a big sheet?
No, I actually, weirdly, I WhatsApp them to myself. So I write them in my phone as I'm watching, and as there's breaks in play, etc. And one of the things I wrote is England could have scored 6 in the first half. France could have scored 9 in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a absolute madness of a game of football. But is it one you take in any way seriously?
Well, it's hard to... Could you imagine that game and that result being in the tournament as a semi-final game?
Absolutely not.
That's just not going to happen. So I mean, watching the performance with England against, Argentina, we talked a lot about it yesterday, and what England didn't do, and then we...
What football ground are you thinking of when someone says this?
Really tough place to go. Difficult place to go. Such a tough place to go.
It's a tough place to go at the moment.
It was a really difficult place to go.
But what are the toughest places to go, really? We've had a look. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on the side of a cliff in the Faroe Islands in Euro 2000 qualifying. The pitch at Toftir was like a cow field, never mind those gale force winds. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time. Cue Scandi scenes. But away trips don't come tougher than playing Bolivia at altitude in La Paz. Or so we thought. The Bolivians have now taken home advantage to another level, literally 500 metres further up the Andes to the country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Meanwhile, the loudest stadium in world football officially is the Ali Sami Yen, where Galatasaray fans set a world record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead. But our most intimidating away day is in Wales. Prison team HMP Prescoed was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
To me, he's one of the greatest ever Liverpool players.
He has given English football some of its finest moments with Liverpool, with Newcastle.
European Cup has come back to Britain and has come to Liverpool.
I just loved him. And I'm really sad that he's gone.
Kevin Keegan scores and his career on Tyneside turns full circle.
For the city of Newcastle, for the people, they've waited a long, long time and they're the best, there's no doubt about that.
You feel empty because he was such a fantastic, fantastic guy.
The biggest superstar in our dressing room when we had some top players in that era was our manager.
And he gave them a brilliant football team that played some great football.
And he lifted us out of the doldrums.
With Philippe Albert.
Turned your TV on to watch Newcastle. They were that good.
He is a German icon, every bit as much as he is a British icon.
Two-time European Player of the Year.
I played football up till Christmas that even I couldn't believe.
The whole career was characterised by that honesty and passion.
I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
So privileged to have had an incredible footballer, a great human being and a wonderful manager.
You know, Kevin Keegan has given his best shot.
Player, what a manager, what a wonderful person, the late great Kevin Keegan, who sadly passed away yesterday. Kev, I'm too young to remember him as a player, but I've obviously seen the the video footage, 2 times a Ballon d'Or winner, a cult hero at Liverpool and over in Germany with Hamburg, and obviously at Newcastle, more for what he did as a manager. I'm a Manchester United fan. That's the worst kept secret on the station. That 95-96 season when Newcastle came so close to beating us to the Premier League title is one of my favourite seasons ever. And it was the football that Newcastle played, the entertainers, the ability just to outscore the opposition, and really that embodied Kevin Keegan as a person and a player, didn't it?
Yeah, and I'm the same. Well, we're the same age, aren't we, Crookie? So I always remember him as the manager and just being, this wonderful character. Whenever he was in the room, you'd want to go and speak to him. Obviously, my dad, very fond memories of him growing up. I was obviously too young, so you only hear the stories, and then as you say, you see the pictures of him, in them moments. But to go over and do it, and then do what he done, and then light and bring life and energy back to Newcastle, and what he done in that 95-96 season, where I think everybody was vying for Newcastle to win it, apart from all Man United fans, and Sir Alex done what he done, but you're hearing that Philippe Albert, the chip, and you just remember Schmeichel just standing there and being 5-0, and that night at St James's, you could actually hear the electricity from the television, if you like, how much it was, the buzz and the atmosphere there. And then, obviously just to fall short and it be at Liverpool as well, where the 4-3 with Stan Collymore, and you see him just slouched over the billboard and things, just iconic moments in our footballing history, which I always remember Kevin from. But just, in the times where I meant to see him and just having a chance to have a chat with him. But you just see it now, he was a wonderful, wonderful man and brilliant fella.
And another image that stands out in my mind, I was at St James's Park actually last season, and I walked past those steps and I said, look, there's the Keegan steps, when he came out to explain to the Newcastle fans the club's decision to sell Andy Cole to Manchester United. And that sort of epitomises Keegan as a person, doesn't it? He saw himself as a man of the people, a man of the fans.
And that's what it was, and I think when you see all the people talking about him and everything else, you can see that, the people who were closest to him, how they felt about him and what he felt about them, and the way he brought people in, Alan Shearer, but Al, all them players, the way they talk about him is not just sort of, it's just a genuine man who brought the whole city together. And he loses Andy Cole and brings Alan Shearer in a few, it's just lovely seeing him then. A couple of, however long it was, it felt like it was only days or maybe like weeks, but it felt like then he was there and he's like back to hero again. Look what I've done. Yeah. Look what I've done for us again. So incredible, and so sad to see him go, and so quick as well. After him, putting out there that he was struggling, but King.
Yeah, absolutely. And a man who won 7 major trophies alongside Kevin Keegan at Liverpool. Phil Thompson joined breakfast earlier this morning, and he revealed the instant impact that Kevin had at Anfield.
Came as a midfield player, and I was 3 years his junior, and you could see in him there was something special. Listen, he wasn't blessed with some skills like George Best, but he was driven, this young man. And when you take on Ronnie Moran in one of your first pre-season games at Southport, and we got to half-time 0-0, always remember him, he came in and sat down, and Kevin just went on one. He went, we're never going to score like this. We're never going to score. This is rubbish. And Ronnie Moran went switch, and Ronnie flew back, and he went, well, do you think you can do better? And he went, yes. He said, right, you're playing up front the second half. We won 2-0. Kevin scored 2. And that was Kev.
Great story there from Phil Thompson on there. Kevin Keegan. I agree with Les Ferdinand, actually. I think naming a stand after Keegan at St James's Park would be a fitting tribute.
Yeah, definitely. I think Les got that right there when I heard that, when he spoke about that and mentioning that. I think, and I think it's something what they will honour, because they know and they look after their own up there. And I was very fortunate to have 2.5 unbelievable, fantastic years and to become part of that family. So I think that would be a great honour for him and his family.
Let's bring in David. He's a Manchester City fan. David, you'd like to pay your own tribute to Kevin Keegan?
Yeah, you okay, guys? Yeah. Terribly sad, just really sad. And obviously, I just remember him from when he came in at City and we'd just been relegated, and he Keegan would sort of get in a job and then he'd sort of do this. What I liked about Keegan is he'd hold his hands up, like the England would say, I'm not good enough. And he'd walk away. I mean, most managers now don't do that. They wait to be sacked. And I think there's an element of huge respect in that with Keegan. That's what was so likeable about him. He'd sort of hold his hands up and he'd sort of disappear and he'd lick his wounds and he'd come back and he'd be like, Keegan's back, he's got his mojo back, and he came to City. And that team he built at City, despite all the success they've had at City in recent years, that Kevin Keegan team, let me tell you, is still the most entertaining team I've seen at Main Road. It was so exciting to watch. And I think that season we got 99 points and we scored 108 goals that year to get promoted. And it was magical. The last 2 years at Main Road were magical times. And he was a big part of City where they are today because he was the last manager in charge of the dugout at Main Road and he took us to the new stadium at the Etihad. And it was just, a real sort of one-off in football, Keegan. I'm really sad because it was the last City team I watched with my dad before my dad passed away. And my dad used to run about Lee Bell Summerby all the time. That's all we ever hung on to at City. And then Keegan came and he gave us this sort of hope again. And we started bringing in these players like Ali Benarbia. Like, who is this guy he brought? And they brought Berkovic in and Anelka and Distin. And it was like a real entertaining team. He got us back into the Premier League, got us into Europe. And it was just kind of, we felt like we were going somewhere now with this guy. And I was saying to a mate of mine the other day, I was saying what he's remembered for Keegan. We seem to go on about, I will love it if we beat them with the Man United in the 95 season, the title race. But what I remember Keegan more for as well, because it was before my time as a player, so I remember him more as a manager. But what I remember him for is when he came out on the steps at St James's Park, and there was a load of disgruntled fans, and he explained to him why they were selling Andy Cole and how good Keith Gillespie will be as a player coming in as part of the deal. That would never happen in today's game. That would never happen in today's game. And he wore his heart on his sleeve. He spoke from the heart. And do you know what? Football now, when I look at football now, I think it's in a real bad way at the moment because the players are all robotic. They don't speak from the heart. They're over media trained. Everyone's scared of really speaking from the heart. You never really get the true essence of a coach in press conferences. Keegan was that. And when you look back at that era of the mid-90s, late 90s, I'm so glad I lived through it because that, to me, was still the beautiful game as it was. It was still lent itself to the 60s and the 70s of these iconic managers. Malcolm Allison with the fedora hat and the cigar, your big Ron Atkinsons. It was more magical than football. Right now, when I look at it, I'm not too sure where we're at with it. But Keegan, I've got to say, he was a real last sort of great one. And it was so sad he never won that league title with Newcastle. I know you're a United fan, and I know it's great for United, but just you wanted him to win it. He was the good guy in it, in the fight.
He was. David, thanks for the call. And do you know what? I would have probably taken it that year had Newcastle won the title. But he's right there, David, about...
He spoke very well there, by the way.
How honest.
And you forget them moments, don't you? We all talk about the Keegan, what he's just said, but even what he done for Man City in that time, Crookie, what you're just saying there.
Yeah, and Gilles texted us, actually, I remember going to the European match versus Barcelona. Asprilla scored the hat-trick. I think all made by Keith Gillespie, actually. Did those somersaults, coming out, 40,000 fans singing Walking in a Keegan won the land. Awesome. Geordies love their club, and rightly so. And he mentioned there about how honest Kevin Keegan was and how he wore his heart on his sleeve. They lost, didn't they, at Wembley to Germany? Didi Hamann scored the goal last game at Wembley. And he resigned on the spot straight afterwards, Kevin Keegan, because that's how much it hurt him to lose the last game at Wembley to Germany. And I think he's right. You don't get that level of contrition now from modern-day managers.
No, you don't. And you're told to stay in there, not. But he realised that he felt that he'd let the country down, and it wasn't just totally him. You know what I mean? And that's what he was, and that's why what you get from him, what you're seeing him, and what you're seeing of Kevin Keegan was actually what he gave in front of in them cameras. He never changed.
No, absolutely. And the switchboard has got a lot of people wanting to pay tribute to Kevin Keegan. We will continue that the next side of this break. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan, White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals, selcobw.com.
Viva España. Thank you, Spain. Muchas gracias, España. Ferran Torres, you absolute beauty. You have saved football, because from start to finish, whether it's Tom Cruise's pathetic speech about unity in front of Donald Trump, whether it's the game starting 6 minutes late, whether it's the disgraceful refereeing which allowed Argentina to push, scratch, foul and dive their way into extra time, whether it's the most egregious decision to chalk off Nico Williams' opener, whether it's the ridiculous half-time show which wasn't even good, or Infantino chasing after Donald Trump after the trophy was handed out. This World Cup in so many ways was an absolute circus, and Argentina, who might have produced two of the world's best players, have been an ugly addition to this World Cup, and I'm glad they got their just desserts. The only shining light in the stadium was Spain, and I've just enjoyed the biggest hate watch of my life. Thank you, Spain. You've saved football.
Max, I'm with you all the way, mate. Look, it was a boring game.
It was a terrible game.
It was a terrible game, wasn't it? It wasn't great, was
Argentina made it terrible.
Yeah,
the ref made it.
Duracell's Extra Mile on talkSPORT. Different, better, unstoppable.
OK, time now for Duracell's Extra Mile, where we're going to pick players who we think went the extra mile. There's only one game to talk about, Sunday's World Cup final, as Spain beat Argentina 1-0 in extra time. Kev, who went the extra mile in that game for you?
I think, for me, Rodri is probably the one we're all looking at now, and I think the biggest thing for me was that, when he hasn't had that full season in the Premier League, he just looked fresh, didn't he? He looked good, and he had all them youngsters around him, and he just sort of led them, and I think that's why it's probably so important, more important now with what's happened at Man City, that they keep hold of him, because he could be the glue which will help Maresca now transform into something different, what Man City are going to look like from the Pep era,
Yeah, I thought he was head and shoulders the best player on the pitch in that final on Sunday, and the vibe at the end of last season, and we know he's very much on Real Madrid's wanted list, was that maybe the time would be right for City to cash in. He'd had a couple of years where injuries had taken their toll, but I think you're right, City surely watching that performance at the World Cup will be thinking, well, we've got to keep this guy and build the Maresca era around him.
Well, it says it all, doesn't it? Because he's not been around for a couple of years, or we see that he hasn't been around for a couple of years, and Real Madrid are the ones who are trying to buy him, so just shows how important and how good he is, and what they think he can do for them and make them a better team, because they don't come for you unless you are the top player you are. But he just proved again, didn't he? He's come out in a World Cup, and he sort of went under the radar, didn't he, until they absolutely trounced France in that semi-final. I thought anyway, no one was really speaking to them. I remember being in Spain at the time, we were getting in cabs, and I was talking to the driver, and they're like, oh, France is going to be too much, and I was like, no, I really believe Spain, and I did back Spain, really did a lot. And well, I'm glad that it's a thing that I actually know a little bit about football, but yeah, no, and I just thought he was the one, for him to be that man in the middle of the midfield who just he took the games by the scruff of the neck, and he was just what we've all come to expect from a Rodri.
And it was that partnership with Ruiz as well.
Ruiz, yeah.
That protection for the back four and the goalkeeper. 1 goal conceded. Ruiz actually 50 games for his country, never lost. Lamine Yamal never lost a competitive game for Spain. The manager De La Fuente, 50 games, never lost a competitive match. It's incredible when you look at those numbers.
incredible, and just, to win the last 2 tournaments the way they have as well, because we talk about, when Argentina won it 4 years ago, and I'm not going to go on about Argentina, but the way they done it, we said they got the job done.
Yeah.
Spain have just absolutely
cruised
through this
and they cruised through the Euros as well.
Exactly,
and they'll be the favourites for the Euros again.
Yeah. You'd expect, and it'll only be a France on the day, and England maybe on the day if we get it. Because apart from that, I can't see anybody sort of troubling them because of how good they were. And we talk about how fluid they are up front and everything else, but to only concede 1 goal in the whole of a World Cup, which is the biggest World Cup in its entire history, is incredible.
And that was with the guy who won the Golden Glove in the Premier League, David Raya, on the bench.
So
squad depth they've got.
So it just shows, but it shows the camaraderie what he's built as well. Yeah. De La Fuente is what he's done. He's handpicked all the ones who he's had in the 21s, who he's seen coming through the system. He's handpicked all them, but he's handpicked then the ones, because there'll be some big Spanish players who didn't go to that World Cup. Yeah. But what he's done is he's built his team around what he wanted, and Rodri is the one who he probably didn't have, who he's stuck on, and he's stuck under the wing and gone, look, you need to lead these young men, and by God did he lead them then.
Because Harry Kane is the current bookies' favourite for the Ballon d'Or. Obviously scored a lot of goals in the Bundesliga last season, but it's going to be Rodri again, isn't it? Having been crowned the best player at the World Cup.
I think because of what he's done in the World Cup, you can never take it away. I think if Man City would have won the league, I think you may be having the conversation of that. I think because he's missed so much of the season, then I probably think that's why Harry's become the bookies' favourite.
Yeah. Well, brilliant performance from Rodri, brilliant performance from Spain. Congratulations to them once again. That was Duracell's Extra Mile.
Duracell's Extra Mile on talkSPORT. Different, better, unstoppable.
Let's bring in Tony, the Tottenham fan. We are still paying tribute to Kevin Keegan here on talkSPORT. Tony, what is your lasting memory of the great man?
Hi guys, lovely to talk to you.
Bye, mate.
I actually called up to talk about Thomas Tuchel, but then I was asked would I comment on Keegan, and I think he's one of the players that you can't deny his brilliance as a player and as a manager. And as a Spurs fan, I remember seeing him in '76 when Liverpool came to White Hart Lane in that great Liverpool side. And he was an absolute legend and a brilliant player. And then, obviously, he came to White Hart Lane with his famous Newcastle team and also the Man City team that beat us 5-3 as a comeback from 3-0 down in the Cup, which was an extraordinary game. But his attitude to football and the way that he approached the game as a manager, I just can only imagine what it would have been like to play under him. And he was just one of those people that you just admired for his gung-ho approach to football. And I think one of your listeners has said, he played the beautiful game, and I think he did. And it was such a shame that Newcastle didn't win the league that year, because I think they would have gone on to become a real force and challenge United for many seasons to come. But I think that knocked the stuffing out of them. But he was just an extraordinary man. And also I think his attitude to sport and life, when you watched him at Superstars, which again, a kid of the 70s, that was a major programme to watch. He was just all in and gave it everything. And that bike thing, when he came off and lost all his skin, he just did everything 100%, 110%. And what an extraordinary man.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary in so many ways. I remember that post-Germany interview after he resigned. He was very honest. Please note, Mr. Tuchel, this text says in brackets, said he couldn't see how to turn the game around and that the level was maybe above him. That kind of honesty brings respect and admiration. Rob's a Bolton fan. Rob, you want to pay your tribute to Kevin Keegan as well?
I most certainly do. What a player. Fabulous player. It's hard to add to all these glowing tributes, but for me, when he played for England, you always felt we had a chance. He had limitless energy and enthusiasm. He buzzed all over that pitch and gave everything he could. For me, the saddest thing for me was that Kevin Keegan, of such high ability, and let's not forget that, he had great ability. Football didn't start in the last few years. Football was a rigorous and a hard game to play in the 70s. And Kevin Keegan, small in stature, but such a big man, He gave everything. And for me, the biggest tragedy was that this great player never played in a World Cup tournament. That, to me, is a massive waste. But Keegan, as we all know, we've all got to go at some point. But Kevin could look back on a life well lived. He was... I tend to get sentimental with things like this, so I'm sorry.
No problem, Rob.
Okay, Rob.
He was just brilliant.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say, really. Thanks for hearing me out.
Rob, no problem.
Yeah.
A lovely tribute. And again, that just shows the effect that Kevin Keegan had on fans of all clubs.
And it's amazing because, he was just talking there about his energy, how fit he was, the way he was and everything else. And we talk about these lads now these days being ultra super fit. And I remember Alan Irvine when I first went back into West Ham as a coach, and Alan Irvine said, we haven't changed the running from when I was doing it years ago. So, and it would have been because they were all fit lads at the same time, and they were doing it on much worse pitches as well. So, fair play to him. But yeah, what a lovely tribute it was from Rob from Bolton there.
Yeah, and actually this text we've had from Stephen in Hackney probably sums it up quite nicely. I always felt as though Kevin Keegan was my mate. I never met him, of course. He was so down to earth and accessible, and I think that's right. He was a humble hero, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly that. And I think when you hear everybody, and as I said, everybody who knew him really closely just said like the warmth and the how much they felt that he was like a brother, an uncle, a father figure, everything what you would imagine and what you're seeing. There was nowhere you thought, actually, is he trying to kid people here? Everything what you're seeing on screen.
Even I will love it if we beat them. It came from the heart, didn't it?
Exactly, and everyone loved that, didn't they? They loved seeing it because it was only what we come to expect, and it was just because his emotion at that moment in time, and what he was trying to do was rally everybody to say, come on, I'm going to love it when we beat them. I love it, and again, as I said, for me being so young at that time as well, to remember that just like so iconically and easily is it just shows you. But listen, he's had so many fantastic memories from him, but as I said, it's just been a great honour because I was able to meet the man on a few occasions and have a couple of minutes of his time, which he was absolutely first class.
Yeah, we will continue to share our memories of Kevin Keegan, yours as well, 0371722 3344, and of course our thoughts at talkSPORT go out to all of Kevin Keegan's friends and family, former teammates, former colleagues at this very sad time. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan on talkSPORT.
Gabby, well done to Spain. Argentina were an absolute disgrace.
Yes, last night, I felt like I won last night watching. I felt like football was the winner. Anti-football lost. Shame that Messi's probably last World Cup game was a game where his team didn't try and play football. Disgraceful tactics that have worked all through the World Cup. They're bully teams. And last night, they tried to bully Spain and it didn't work. Finally, a referee who decided to give a few bookings. Could he give a lot more?
Oh, well, how was Paredes still on?
Especially to Paredes and other players, but at least he gave that second yellow card to Enzo Fernandez, who deserved to get sent off. Football's the winner once again, which is what we wanted to see in the Champions League, football being the winner, and also in the World Cup.
Yeah, that Enzo Fernandez, I've never met him, he must be a lovely bloke, mustn't he? After the England game when he said he likes the English because everyone who cleans and cooks at his house is English.
Wow.
I mean, it's breathtakingly arrogant, to say the least. I think he'll get a pretty hot reception at English football.
Every game
next season.
Every game. Just his character, his celebrations. His social media last night was absolutely buzzing.
Talk Sport.
A very good morning. You're listening to talkSPORT here with your sports headlines. I'm Amelia Beltrao. Les Ferdinand is calling for Newcastle to rename a stand in Kevin Keegan's honour at St James's Park. Following his death at 75, the club will be opening a book of condolence for supporters. Warren Barton told us he would never have signed for Newcastle if it wasn't for Keegan.
What he wanted to do more than anything is to make the people up there proud of their football club. And he did that. And they adored him. They loved him. And him and Sir Bobby Robson are cut from the same cloth of about, they understand the people. They understand what it was about.
Well, as a player, Keegan won 2 Ballon d'Ors during spell at Hamburg and was an icon at Liverpool and Newcastle. Phil Thompson was at Liverpool when Keegan joined in 1971.
What Kevin had was unique. That drive, that jump. Listen, players don't come along like Kevin Keegan very often. Kevin should be one of those guys who should live forever.
Patron of the FA, the Prince of Wales, says above all, Kevin will be remembered as a kind and generous man. Elsewhere, we're told West Ham are considering selling Crescenzio Somerville to Roma. They've bid $40 million. We're expecting Arsenal to make another bid for Newcastle captain Bruno Guimaraes. We understand Alex Scott's turned down a new contract at Bournemouth, but the club don't expect him to leave this summer. Meanwhile, Chelsea value Nicholas Jackson at $65 million. Aston Villa are interested. And to cricket, where Jamie Smith hopes the 100 to work his way back into England's white ball squads. Smith now plays for Southern Brave. The 100 starts today at the Oval with MI London hosting Sunrisers Leeds.
talkSPORT News.
There are questions over how Andy Burnham plans to fund cutting VAT on energy bills from October, and flying taxi factories could soon be built in the UK. Sangeeta has more at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. With over 600 centres across the UK, most of which open 7 days a week, we're always there when you need us. QuickFit. Drive away happy every time.
A largely dry day, but a few light showers across northern coast, feeling warm in the sun, especially in the south.
Well, this morning is really hurtling along. We're already into the second hour here. It's myself, Alex Crook, and the former Newcastle, West Ham and Bolton midfielder Kevin Nolan with you all the way through until 1 o'clock as we continue the fallout from the World Cup. We look ahead to the new Premier League and Championship season. On the subject of the Championship, Jared Bowen will be staying at West Ham. That, of course, was announced last week. Kev, I remember when Newcastle were relegated from the Premier League, you decided to stay under Chris Hughton, help them win promotion back to the top flight at the first time of asking. So I guess you can give us an insight into why Jared Bowen would have made this call.
Yeah, I think probably a number of reasons I should have.
Is it mainly because he's scared of his father-in-law?
I don't think he'll be scared. That boy, listen, he can handle himself, Jared. Let me tell you, he's not one to be messed with as well. But proper northern boy, farmer. Lovely family, really good lad. Very surprised, if I'm honest, because I believe that I thought he was very unfortunate not to travel with that squad with England. I think he would have offered something. He can play that number 9 role as well. So if you're looking for something different, and he's got pace and power, and he's just got something I think a bit different to what we would have had. But I'm surprised, but I'm not, and I'm delighted for the West Ham family and fans really, because I think he's done it because he's settled as well. I think he can be. He's the captain. I think he probably feels a little bit of responsibility, bit similar to what I felt. When it was Newcastle, I remember going out for a pint with my dad the day after we got relegated at Aston Villa, and I had a real serious chat, just me and him. I didn't want anybody else there. I just wanted it to just be me and him, and just have a sort of what next shot, and I remember just coming back going, no, I'm going to prove that like I can make it work at Newcastle. And not only that, I want to get Newcastle back where they belong, and I'm going to be at the forefront of that. And I realised at that moment then that I'm going to have to work my socks off doubly hard to make sure that happened, and to sort of drive everything when we were in the building, because there was still a lot of badness going on in and around the not just in the front, the forefront of it and Gavin, the relegation. It was what was going on behind the scenes and everything else, and you've got to galvanise all that, and we did that. I remember getting beat 6-1 at Leyton Orient just before we got promoted in that pre-season, and that was the time then where I think I sort of exploded in the dressing room, and it was sort of Chris, Colin, because at the time they hadn't been appointed. It was like, lads, look, this can't happen. We're not. We can't be getting beat by Leyton Orient, no disrespect, and that's what it is, and that's what's needed. And Jared can be that catalyst. He can be that stalwart in there to make sure that the standards are met, to make sure that they do bounce up at the first time happening, because it's not going to be easy.
No.
It's going to be a real difficult one, and especially with losing obviously Fernandes, who was arguably the best player for them that next season. Somerville's now being linked away with a move.
I think he'll go.
Yeah, you'll know more than me with that, Crookie, But yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me is that they've got to recruit, and I think that's the biggest thing on Nuno's side, that as well as getting all this money and with what they're going to take in, they've got to make sure that they're going to give them a chance. And I think that's what, with what I read from and what I've heard from Jared's interview, I think he's been promised a lot of things which are going to help them to give them the best opportunities and the best chance to bounce them back right away.
Well, let's hear from the man himself. This was Jarrod Bowen last week, confirming he will stay at West Ham and explaining the reasons why.
The main motivation for me is staying and bringing this club back into the Premier League where we belong. There was always going to be rumours, there's always going to be different things going on, what's going on, and I think for me it was only right to speak when the time's right in circumstances like this. So ultimately it hurt everyone, and it should hurt everyone, because it was such a disappointing thing that happened, but you can't change it, it doesn't last forever. I flew out to Prague in Czech Republic to meet Daniel, Yuri, go out and speak, and the ambition that I got from Daniel and Yuri, certainly in terms of the direction the club that wants to move in, it interests me a lot. It didn't take a lot for me, because this club means a lot to me, and as I said done an interview after the game and said my vision is to get this club back in the Premier League.
There you go, Jarrod Bowen saying his vision is very much to get West Ham back in the Premier League. Is there any part of him, by staying at West Ham, that is conceding that his England career is effectively over, having been left out of the World Cup?
Yeah, I think probably if he would, I think it would have been a different story if Jared would have won the World Cup. I think we would have been talking about him maybe, because he would have been wanting to think that he's got a real opportunity of going to the Euros. I think what he's done now, he's looked after what he feels is the best thing for Jarrod Bowen now going for him, his family, everything else, and I think that's rightly so. Sometimes you've got to make a decision within yourself. As I said, I believe that he possibly had a real good opportunity and would have been really disappointed not to be on that plane. So I think this is probably where he's looked at it over the summer. He's had a real good time, as he said. He really good think, not a good time. He's had a really good think about all the the scenarios. Been away with the family, gone over and seen Daniel and Yuri over in Czech. So for me, I think he's made the decision what suits him and his family, and him moving forward now and being the best part and giving himself the best version of himself over the next coming years for West Ham and what he wants to do. And as you can see, and I know him as a lad, as I said, working closely with him, and his drive and his determination, he wouldn't have taken it lightly, because he would have felt he should have been on the plane. Yeah. But he would have realised that getting relegated probably would have went against him, all that type of stuff. But now what he wants to do and what he can do is fire West Ham back into the Premier League, and I think that he'll have more satisfaction doing that and being the captain of the club than he probably would if he would have left to go somewhere else. And he should be a cheat code in the Championship. Don't put extra pressure on him, Crookie, now.
He should. Yeah. He should get at least 20 goals in the Championship.
Well, you'd expect that if Jared, hopefully staying healthy, staying fit, everything what comes with it, the quality what he has, he should be able to, to reach that target, quite comfortably. I think he had 11 goals and some 13 assists in the Prem. So you're talking about the top player here going into the Championship, and but it's not always as easy as that. The Championship is a tough league. I remember dropping down with Newcastle. I think I scored 17 goals that year, and we had about, I think there was 4 of us, me, Andy Carroll, Peter Lovencrans and Miobi, who all scored 15 plus goals in that year, over 100 goals, over 100 points, all that type of stuff. But it wasn't easy.
No.
Because West Brom took us all the way. It was a real tough battle. But what we did is we hung on in there, and when we needed it, we had them real good moments from players.
Do you feel like West Ham are in a better place now? Karen Brady has left. Obviously, David Sullivan has stepped down from his executive role, still retains some shares. I was told a few days ago that maybe he's digging his heels in a bit in terms of selling those shares. But it feels like for the first time in a while, everybody's pulling in the right direction. It was quite toxic on that final day of the season.
Yeah, I think that this moment in time, and I think the problem what you had is that they had a lot of supporters who have not welcomed the London Stadium move and blamed Mr. Sullivan and Karen Brady for that, and all of a sudden it hasn't turned out the way it was, because we've ended up back in the Championship where we didn't want to be.
And 12 years as well, a long time.
Exactly.
To cement yourselves in the Premier League and suddenly find yourself in the second tier again.
Yeah, and I think when Daniel and Yeri come in, they wanted to sort of, put their stamp on it, and I think that's what they're sort of trying to look for now. And I think I'll be surprised if something doesn't come to fruition in the next coming weeks. But we haven't seen much going on. We've seen a lot of outgoings at the minute, or talk about outgoings going from West Ham. We haven't seen nothing really coming in. So it's going to be interesting now to see the new era, if you like, after what's happened over the last few months, and see what's coming in the next few months. Because it's going to be, as I said, Jared won't be able to just do it on his own, because it's not the league's not like that. It's not forgiven. If you don't prepare well, if you're not ready, if you've not got the squad, then you could be found wanting in that league as well, and it could turn into a disaster. So lots of work to do behind the scenes, as I said. But yeah, hopefully it's only going to get better.
In terms of other players that we know are sought after, which of these would you ideally want to keep for the Championship, and which do you think you would let go if you were making those decisions? If you were Mark Noble, if you like, Thomas Souček, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, we know he's wanted by Everton. Somerville, there's a bid in from Roma. Villa showing interest as well. Yeah. Tati Castellanos. Then you've got Jean-Claire Todibo. Yeah. As I'm told, as informed Nuno Espirito Santo that he doesn't want to play for him again after they fell out at the end of the last season. Which of those 5 players?
Well, I think you've just got to get rid of Todibo, because once he says that, you're not going to get him back on board. As a manager, you've got to say, and you've got to put a stance out there. You've got to put, as a coach, as a manager, you've got to say, no, you're not going to. You are not going to play for me either. You're not going to play for this club again for what you said. So for me, that's a gone. Wan-Bissaka, yeah, I think it just money talks on that. Really, I think the money talks. If they're willing to get the money, I think obviously wages and everything else, what he'll be on. I think
and they've got Walker Peters who can play in the Championship.
Exactly, and who's been there. He's very. He's got a lot of experience. Played, as you just said, and I think he's been promoted with Southampton not so long ago from there. So, yeah, look, I think their moments. Somerville, you're talking £40 million again. Is that going to help them with Nuno getting money in to sort of strengthen the squad? Souček, if you can keep him all day long, I think he'll score you 15 plus goals again in that division. You've seen what he does in the Prem and internationally, and I think he spoke really well, Thomas, after the season ended. So I think he's wanting to sort of put that right as well. So I think if you can't keep all of them, unless you're going to get big money again, I think you've got to.
And Castellanos finally made a bit of an impact.
He did. He didn't score the goals probably what you would like to. He scored that wonderful effort, but it was, to no avail against Newcastle. But apart from that, I don't think he done well in his sort of output of goals. But what he did do well is he brought some energy on the top end and give the likes of Jared these chances to run in behind, and I think he had he sort of built up a nice little bit of a rapport with the fans and all the people behind the scenes at the club as well.
What about James Ward-Prowse? Because it's a strange one.
Yeah, I don't
understand Forest under Nuno. He didn't pick him there. He left him out of his squad for his first game at West Ham. Didn't get a look in. But again, in the Championship, his delivery could be crucial, couldn't it?
Yeah, unbelievably. Yeah, I mean, he's a top lad. Jamie. I really can't understand what's going on and whether they fell out or he's heard something or him and Nuno.
He's not the type of character Ward-Prowse to fall out with managers.
He's quite quiet, complex, but goes about his work really well. But he's a top midfielder, and especially in the Championship. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes in the next coming months. As the season gets underway, because as I said, and we can't hold it. No one can deny the quality of his delivery and his ability. So it's a bit of a, because I've tried to find out. Yeah. I've been trying to do the crookie one, get in there. But I'm not as good as you at it yet, mate. So I'm getting nothing. It's not until no one's giving me anything. But I hope he can put the differences away, because he's a great kid, great lad. What I hear about Nuno, he's a fantastic fella. So hopefully they can and they can, do what's best for West Ham.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting summer. On the subject of transfers, we're going to be delving into Crookie's transfer notebook next, including Chelsea interest in a Bournemouth midfielder. You're listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Twenty-seven and a half minutes was how long half-time was. That's a disgrace in and of itself. We know that. We know it's a load of tosh. But if you're going to make football showbiz, at least do it well. They started with a clearly pre-recorded Madonna song.
Oh, yeah.
I know. It was like Mario Kart Double Dash with Ronaldo just sat there smiling. And they've had Justin Bieber playing a song nobody knows with a guitar that's not tuned properly. And then, we don't mind a bit of Shakira, really, but Shakira was the only highlight. But we could have had that in a 15-minute
decent. Although Burna Boy was trying to get a bit too close, you know what I mean? He's trying to get a wine. He's only.
And also the irony of having the Muppets there, puppets there.
Oh, what was that about?
In Gianni Infantino's World Cup half-time.
They've overdone it, didn't they?
It was shocking, absolutely shocking. The whole Spain saved it. Yeah. Because it was a dark day for football until Ferran Torres, the absolute beauty, came up.
And let's talk about. Hold on. We've got to talk about at the end when they're lifting up the trophy. What's Donald Trump? What's Donald Trump doing? Like, he's trying to get a photo up again.
Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
Yes, this is The Real Deal with Selco, where we recognise someone who has achieved something massive in the sporting world this week. And today we're picking Josh Kerr, the man who set a new record for the fastest ever mile, doing so in 3 minutes, 42.66 seconds. The previous record had stood for 27 years. Kerr joined H&J yesterday and was asked exactly when he knew the record was in sight.
So weirdly enough, as soon as I started in the first 100 meters, I could tell it was going to be my day. You know, that way that you go out there and you perform, you have that feeling. And then it was just about staying locked into my pacemakers that set me the pace for the first 1,000 meters. And then that last 609 was on me. So, that first 150 meters, I was like, today is my day. I just got to focus in on the job at hand.
Josh Carr, I mean, quite extraordinary, really. 3 minutes, 42.66 seconds. I had to run for a train yesterday, and it nearly killed me. After 5.5 weeks
You're
in
still
America.
sweating now, Crook.
I am. I nearly missed it. I mean, that is just beyond belief, isn't it?
Incredible. And I think I was reading something, it was like, he called it the 222. And it was 222 seconds. I think it works out. I hope I am getting that right. But it is, yeah, obviously. But
Yeah,
it was
no, it is. You're right, yeah.
But
Just the maths.
But yeah, he was talking about it and how long he's actually worked for it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was weak looked and the way it was. And it's incredible. And I'm delighted for him, because you know when you put so much work into it and you've got to perform on a big stage at the London Stadium, where it's incredible because there's just no wind there, Crookie. It's one of the best venues, I would say, and I know this goes against everything what's said, but it's one of the best things because they wanted all the world. Excuse my stutter, but when they had the Olympics there, they wanted every record to be broken because they've done it, and the noise what it creates and everything else. But as he says, first 100 meters, you know. He knew, and he just knew because he felt that. He could feel it, you know, in your legs, you know, in your head. You get yourself in such a good space, and I've never been able to. But as you say, you know, like incredible, and I'm delighted that it's back with someone from Great Britain.
Yeah, 27 years the last record stood. How long do you think this one might?
A long time. And you know what he said afterwards? I was a bit disappointed I didn't get it below 222. So just shows you the way these athletes think, and it's incredible, and that's it. And so he obviously believes that he can go and break it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what a mentality and what an athlete. Brilliant. Well done, Josh Kerr. That was our pick for this week's Real Deal with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deals at selcobw.com.
Now let's take a delve into the transfer notebook, shall we? Available on the website talksport.com. We've also got a daily window show on our YouTube channel throughout this summer transfer window, which I think is really going to ramp up now the World Cup is over. Let's start, Kev, with Alex Scott, the Bournemouth midfielder, unlucky maybe to just miss out on a place in the England squad. He was one of those players who went for the pre-camp in Florida but didn't quite make Thomas Tuchel's final cut. He was offered a contract, as I understand it, some 6 months ago now. That contract remains unsigned. There has been interest. Chelsea, I'm told, willing to pay around £60 million for Alex Scott. That's nowhere near Bournemouth's valuation. In fact, all of his suitors, Manchester United and Arsenal among them, have been told that Bournemouth's plan, regardless of this contract going unsigned, is that he will be their player next season. Can they keep him?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course they can. They've just got themselves into Europe. Do they want to lose one of probably the best players they have in the ranks? You know, and tear up a squad who've done so fantastically well. A new manager coming in, new ideas. Is it giving him a chance to show Scott as well that he's very much of his plans, and it might be his main man, and take him to a new level. So, yeah, I mean, all the right signs, and they're just such a well-run club, aren't they, Bournemouth? You see why they've got it. As soon as Areola says he's going, there was no hesitancy from them. They've got the new man in, they're ready. He knew what was coming. So I think this is not going to be a long drawn out process. I think if he's going to go, it's going to have to be extravagant numbers.
Yeah.
But if not, it's just like hands off because he's staying.
I think they feel like the Elliot Anderson transfer has set the benchmark, and that was at 116 million more if you believe Nottingham Forest, closer to 130 million.
Yeah.
It's going to take 90 to 100, I think, for Bournemouth to even entertain selling Alex Scott.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the figures what are getting bandied about now. It's incredible. Cookie, yeah.
What was your biggest transfer fee?
I think 5 million. I won twice, 5 for 5 million. Yeah, it'll be 4 million now though. No, look, yeah, I think, and Bournemouth, yeah, look, realistic in the current market. you wouldn't stay away from that. I think 80, 90 million, then they'd probably start talking, and probably the ears will start to prick up a bit, and then you might see a bit of movement. But because they're such a well-run club, do they need to sell? No. So why would they when they're going into probably one of the biggest seasons of their entire existence here, really?
Yeah, first ever European campaign. They're going to be in the Europa League. Aston Villa, busy summer for them, mainly in terms of outgoing so far, although they've got a couple of signings through the door as well. I'm told they've been offered the chance to sign Alejandro Garnacho and or Nicholas Jackson. Of course, they've been negotiating with Chelsea for the sale of Morgan Rogers. I can see the Nicholas Jackson one in particular. He played under Unai Emery in Spain. He clearly doesn't have a future at Chelsea. And obviously Villa need reinforcements at the top end of the pitch, having sold Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, I can see that one more than the Garnacho one. I mean, why would you... To me, Garnacho I don't know the kid personally, I don't know him at all, so I'm just looking at when I see him and what he's done at Man United and then going to Chelsea. He looks like a problem child. He looks like a problem if he's not playing. He'll he'll throw his toys out the pram if it's not going too well for him. I think if you've got him on board and you've got your arm around him and everything else and everything suits him, I think he's a real big and good player. But is he big enough for Unai Emery to sort of go, actually, I'll take him because I'll be able to get the best out of him? I don't think Unai Emery will probably take that chance or that opportunity to take him. But as you said, because of knowing Nicholas Jackson and everything else and working with him before, I think that seems more a feasible one.
This is an interesting one. Another one on the notebook today on the website. Inter Milan amongst the clubs monitoring Jed Spence. Tottenham willing to cash in on Spence because, of course, they've got a big summer in terms of reinforcements. Had a good World Cup, I think. One of the few England players to really come out with their reputation enhanced.
You know what? I watched a lot of this lad at Forest a few years ago because I live in Nottingham, and we used to get the tickets because my boy plays there, just signed a scholarship. He's over in Canada now, a lucky thing, enjoying his time out there as on a pre-season camp. So, and I watched a lot of Jed Spence, him and knowing that championship, winning championship when they got championship promotion season. And he was like what we seen at the World Cup, really.
That tackle,
them tackles were coming out, up and down the wing, real big problem to defenders, but really good in the one-on-one situations. Him and Brennan Johnson that year were, arguably Forest top players. So I'm a bit surprised that it hasn't worked out since that. I think he has started to come back, and that's why he's found himself in the England squad. And I think he done himself no harm. I thought he had a fantastic World Cup, and fair play to the lad, for coming back.
On the subject of Spurs, Andrew Crofts leaving Brighton to join Roberto De Zerbi's backroom staff. Of course, worked under the Italian at Brighton. The Seagulls will be entitled to compensation. Stay tuned to talksport.com and the YouTube channel for all the very latest from the transfer window. Next up here on talkSPORT, we'll be asking, what does the future hold for FIFA and UEFA? You said we should respect Argentina as the holders. Do you still respect them after their performance in the final?
Why do you, Alex?
Well, they played like a bunch of thugs. Even
Alex,
the scenes at full time, they were laying punches on celebrating Spanish players.
Yeah, of course. I don't like that. Of course, that is what they do. They leave a bit on everybody. And then, of course, at the end, maybe their true mentality comes through and you see them as people.
Look at that picture on the screen now for those watching on YouTube. Is that what you want to see at the end of a World Cup final?
No, Paredes, I simply don't. What I would like to see is, look, if I'm honest, I wanted to see Messi do something in that game. I think the Spanish, though, throughout have been magnificent. I think they only conceded one goal throughout the whole tournament. They proved, they kill you with 1,000 cuts. Their passing's magnificent. Rodri's, whether he's the player of the tournament, it's certainly been a magnificent turnaround from him, from Man City. But, look, they'll have to take a good look at themselves. I think the referee was doing the best he possibly could in difficult circumstances.
Because he could have got the yellow card out a lot earlier, but that would have in itself ruin the game, wouldn't it, if he started chucking out bookings?
Well, why didn't he do that? I think he could have made.
He was trying to manage the game. I think he knew that inevitably an Argentinian player
They were
would have
getting
to be
away,
sent off.
but they were getting away with this against England, and nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And you reflect on that.
What football ground are you thinking of when someone says this?
Really tough place to go. Difficult place to go. Such a tough place to go.
It's a tough place to go at the moment.
It was a really difficult place to go.
But what are the toughest places to go, really? We've had a look. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on the side of a cliff in the Faroe Islands in Euro 2000 qualifying. The pitch at Toftir was like a cow field, never mind those gale force winds. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time. Cue Scandi scenes. But away trips don't come tougher than playing Bolivia at altitude in La Paz. Or so we thought. The Bolivians have now taken home advantage to another level, literally 500 metres further up the Andes to the country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Meanwhile, the loudest stadium in world football officially is the Ali Sami Yen, where Galatasaray fans set a world record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead. But our most intimidating away day is in Wales. Prison team HMP Prescoed was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan live on talkSPORT with you all the way through until 1 o'clock tonight. Had a text here reacting to that news about Jed Spence potentially leaving Spurs for Inter Milan. I know Tottenham would like to balance the books, but Spence, what a player. I thought he was brilliant for England, played with his heart on his sleeve, certainly a player you want in your squad and the first team. Memory still coming in of Kevin Keegan. Morning, Alex. My memory will always be the curly perm in an England kit. What a player. I also had the opportunity to meet him a few times in my line of work as a Manchester United fan. I had the chance to talk about the 12 points and the rant. He told me he was running on adrenaline. It was pure anger mixed with emotion. Rest in peace, KK. And we all, of course, share those sentiments. Now, one of the big talking points from the World Cup final was the absence of the UEFA president, Alexander Ceferin. He would usually be sat there in the posh seats, but he decided not to attend Spain's 1-0 extra time win over Argentina in protest against FIFA. UEFA reacted very strongly after USA striker Flo Balogun escaped a suspension following an intervention from the American President Donald Trump. That was a key factor, we understand, in Ceferin's decision not to attend the final. Joining us now to talk more about this is my talkSPORT colleague. He was right amongst it with the USA camp during the World Cup, Ben Jacobs. Ben, this is not a great look on Donald Trump's mate Johnny, is it?
No, it isn't. Good morning. And I think it's fair to say there's kind of two sides to this story. So from UEFA's perspective, sources have told me that Ceferin specifically chose not to attend the World Cup final because he was angered by the fallout from Flo Balogun's suspended red card. And you may remember UEFA issued a statement and that said that FIFA had crossed a red line. Now, FIFA sources have bitten back in the last 24 hours, and they argue that Ceferin had told them before the Balogun saga that he wasn't going to be at the World Cup final, and they add that at the Women's World Cup final between Spain and England in 2023, Sheffield also didn't attend. So we've got two sides here. You'd expect FIFA to deny that this was a boycott, but those close to Sheffield confirm what we've been reporting on talkSPORT, that this was about Balogun, that this was snubbing the World Cup final in protest, even though the winners, of course, came from UEFA. And as you say, not a good look, therefore, for Gianni Infantino, who, even though it's felt will win the next FIFA election, is facing growing pressure and maybe will even see a candidate emerge from UEFA to rival him at that election.
Yeah, Ceferin has also, I think, come out and said that some of the changes implemented by FIFA at this World Cup, including halftime shows, hydration breaks, etc., will not be introduced either in the Champions League or the European Championship in a couple of years' time. So clearly there is a big divide here. I've spoken to a few England fans who suggest that maybe UEFA should now pull away from FIFA, and that if they did that, all the European countries withdrew from FIFA, then there would be a big problem for Infantino, because it is the European countries really who drive the World Cup.
Yeah, they drive the World Cup, but they've only got 55 of the 211 votes. And that's the sort of advantage that Infantino has, that it's one member, one vote. So even if every European member took a stand against Gianni Infantino, he still would win the next election by a landslide. And we mustn't forget as well one thing which is crucial in all of this, that Gianni Infantino has over 200 letters of endorsement, including from the English FA, supporting him at that next election. So he is entitled, unless they're withdrawn in the aftermath of the World Cup, to still feel that his position is safe. But Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems, had come out and said that he encourages the English FA to break away and UEFA to do their own thing. What I sense, though, is that there's a lot of bluster, there's a lot of confrontation, there's a lot of issues, but there's not much follow-through or actions beyond these very firmly worded statements. Why doesn't Sheffield choose to stand? Because he doesn't actually want to go head-to-head against Infantino. Why doesn't Nasser Al-Khalifi take all of his European support and leverage that? Because he would get a lot of votes in Asia as well. And again, it's because his focus is on working with FIFA on behalf of the European Club Association, and naturally also in managing PSG. So a lot of people have it in for Infantino, and rightly so, because the issues at this World Cup. But the reality is very few are actually, in a formal way anyway, prepared to take Infantino on.
Away from this, FIFA have confirmed they'll open an investigation into those scenes after Spain's World Cup final win over Argentina. Paredes obviously heavily involved. Is this investigation going to be worth the paper it's written on? Do you see some sanctions being dished out to Argentina?
Well, it's FIFA's disciplinary committee. Again, this time I think we'll see a multi-person panel rather than a sole judge, as was the case via Mohamed Al-Kamali, the chair of that committee, with Flo Balogun. And the fracas is being investigated. There were ugly scenes, of course. In particular, they involved Paredes. He was incorrectly marked as being sent off at full time, and FIFA sources have confirmed that that's not the case. He was not red carded after the full-time whistle, perhaps surprisingly so, given what happened. Almada and Molina, and also one of the coaches, Roberto Ayala, are all seemingly involved in this investigation. And the likelihood here is, in the aftermath of the fracas, we'll see fines and suspensions. That would be the commonplace punishment. And I think for Paredes in particular, when they review that video footage, it's going to be very difficult for him to escape a relatively significant and severe punishment.
And I mentioned, Ben, that you were with the USA team throughout the tournament. Obviously ended disappointingly for them in the end with that hammering against Belgium. What's the latest on Mauricio Pochettino's future? Is he going to sign that long-term contract?
Yeah, Mauricio Pochettino wanted about 2 weeks to take stock, and now he's back in talks with US Soccer. My expectation is, as long as the window is open, Pochettino might wait. And that's because when you're in an international job, it's not a today, tomorrow, get back to work type scenario. So he can wait. And we all know Pochettino would love to come back to England, has unfinished business in the Premier League. He didn't get the Tottenham job. In addition to that, Manchester United, who looked at him before Ruben Amorim never came calling. And then right before the World Cup, he was holding conversations with Milan. And for me, that's telling because it shows you that Pochettino has always been open to return to club management. It's worth noting, if we got a spectacular U-turn on Thomas Tuchel, even though the FA backed him ahead of that home Euros, Poch would be open to the England job. And we know that their dream choice would be Pep Guardiola, but all signs are that Tuchel's going to stay. So he'll bide his time. No quick answer, in my opinion, to US soccer, not in terms of a matter of hours or days anyway, but it's a lucrative 4-year contract. And the advantage of it, and where US soccer holds some confidence, is it's not just about qualification and, if they do so, the actual World Cup in 2030. It's also about a home Olympics in LA, and that may be of appeal to Maurizio Pochettino to try and win a gold medal. So it's an open situation. US soccer referred to the talks as positive, but it wouldn't at all surprise me if Pochettino delays to see if he can get a club opportunity this summer.
Ben, thanks for joining us. As always, Ben Jacobs there bringing us back up to date in the latest row between FIFA and UEFA, and indeed Mauricio Pochettino's future. Listen, I love Poch, Kev, but given the animosity between the two countries, you can't have an Argentine in charge of the England team, can you?
No, not at all, no. I mean, we can't go from a German to an Argentinian. It would just be, with what's happening. And I think, as you just said there, I've got a lot of affection for Poch. I haven't played against his sides, I haven't seen him, and I haven't met the guy, but yeah, no, I can't see that happening.
What did you make of those scenes after the World Cup final? The thuggish behaviour of
well, you've just said it there, yeah, absolute thuggish. I didn't like the scenes after the game against England either. I thought, everything about it was just wrong. If Fernandez, him coming out saying that we've done it for Argentina and everything in his statement, I don't know, on X or whatever it is, I just thought, and then just to do that at the end and sort of take away from Spain players after them doing it, 4 years ago, you want them to sort of be classy in defeat, and they were just classless and ridiculous. And I hope they get sanctioned properly. I hope it's proper and it's not just a flimsy one with a little bit of a fine. I hope it hurts the pockets as well as it hurts them on the pitch as well, because with players, the only thing you can do is you can hit them with time, and the time not on the pitch will give them a real problem. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that, and I don't think it was, and I think it overshadowed what was such a fantastic tournament for Spain.
That's Kevin Nolan alongside me, Alex Crook, all the way through until 1 o'clock. Up next on the programme, we're going to be discussing the future of Marcus Rashford. You are listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. I've got to get your opinion because Wayne Rooney delivered quite a withering assessment of it on TV last night. That half-time show, 27 minutes. Now, first of all, from a player's perspective, you're playing in a World Cup final. You're used to 15-minute half-time, particularly as you mentioned, the veteran stage of your career. Messi, for example, when maybe your joint sees up a little bit more than they would do normally. Yeah. Is it fair on the players to have to wait 27 minutes so we can see a pre-recorded song by Madonna, we can see Shakira come out and mime, and we can see Justin Bieber come out and suck the life out of the entire stadium?
Do you know, like FIFA, to stay true to the values of the game, if it's a 15-minute break in all the other World Cups, it should be a 15-minute break in this one. That's where they've gone too far. The water break as well will be thrown out. It's an Americanized, World Cup.
It was to sell adverts.
Yeah. Well, I don't care what it was for, but it was changing the momentum of games. It was giving managers an opportunity to stitch in information at vital times in the game. Now, look, I put myself in the mind of the players. And when are we listening to the halftime team talk? Are we going straight in to listen to the manager? When it's a rousing team talk, we've got to wait 20 minutes before we then, he actually gets into it.
The subs can't even go and warm up on the pitch because it's covered with
you can't warm up. What are we doing? How are we keeping those muscles and minds, turning over for half an hour. It is something they would have in the biggest game of their lives, by the way. Look, as a person who watched it, the game started late, so I nipped out to the local pub and I didn't miss the start. That was great. I had my dinner during the halftime break, so it was fantastic for the fan, but it doesn't help the competitors, and it should never happen again.
Rooney was right. You are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan live on talkSPORT. Still more than an hour of the programme to go. The Hull City owner, Adjun Ilikali, will be joining us around about midday to discuss their summer transfer spending so far and their plans for the window. Let's talk now, though, about Marcus Rashford, one of England's goal scorers at the World Cup, scored in that 4-2 opening victory against Croatia. Still a Manchester United player under contract until 2028. His salary around about £325,000 a week makes him United's top earner. He was on loan at Barcelona last season. He wanted to join them permanently, but they've signed Anthony Gordon for £70 million instead. Does beg the question, what does the future hold for Rashford? My understanding is that he ideally would still like to leave United, still not particularly happy with the hierarchy there over the circumstances of his departure this time last year. And while there is a slim chance that Michael Carrick reintegrates him into his first team squad, I think United ideally would like to sell as well. In my notebook on the talkSPORT website today, I talk about Fenerbahce in Turkey being interested, but Rashford doesn't seem particularly keen on that move. It all feels a little bit like limbo, Kev.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think it was the same last year, and you know, he come up trumps with the Barcelona move. Where did that come from last season? And you think, go there, and then you have the season, and was he up and down? You sort of got mixed reviews, didn't you, from there, and whether they were going to then, you know, take him on this year and sign him. But I think probably the biggest block and the stumbling block for himself is the actual money they're going to have to give him. You know, and I think that's the problem. Do Man United want to go, you know, okay, we'll let him leave, but, you know, and take a hit on his wages and pay half of his wages so they can get him out? I think that's what they probably had to do in the last couple of seasons when he went to Villa and now Barcelona. So, yeah, it's all a bit of a mess, isn't it, considering, you know, being a Manchester boy, you don't really like to see it, but it's all really a bit of a mess, and I don't really see an outcome, and where it's going to get an outcome. I think it's someone's going to have to give, and I don't know which one's going to go first.
Well, they've already given his squad number away because Mateus Cunha took his number 10 shirt last summer. So
that says it all from Michael as well, and his squad and his staff and everything else, that, you know, they see him that he probably won't be there, or he's someone who will be leaving this summer, but you know, Fenerbahce, as you just, it was Fenerbahce you mentioned, didn't it? Yeah, I mean, for them, they're probably the only ones who could probably take on his wages as well, probably give Man United money as well. So it's whether he fancies that. But as you say, you know, does he want to go to Turkey? But at the moment, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
He did have a £40 million buyout clause in his contract that could be activated by any club other than Liverpool and Man City, of course, United's big rivals.
Yeah.
That's expired now. Barcelona's option to sign him permanently for £26 million also long since expired. It's a bad look, isn't it, on Rashford, that they could have signed him for 26 million and then they decided to pay 70 million for Gordon instead.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? You look at it and you think 26 million plus his wages would probably be in and around that money anyway. So are they looking at it and thinking, no, we feel like we've got better value for Anthony Gordon, and that's how you see it from the outside, you know, looking at it. Again, you know, I think wages are a massive problem. I think, you know, with the way it's probably been handled with Manchester United and everything else, and a few of the, you know, stories coming out, people are looking at him in a bit of a different light to where they were probably 5 years ago when he had that fantastic season. It was 5 years, I think now, 4 or 5 years ago in the COVID. So Yeah, look, I think he's one of them. What comes first now for Marcus, I think, is it the footballing side, and does he want to go out there and play for the best team possible and do it and get his head down and sort of speak to Michael and go, look, I want to sort of, with what I'm hearing, I want to, get it right. Or has it gone too far? Has that ship sailed now and he's got to get himself out and go and make his name and mark somewhere else? So, yeah, big decisions for himself. Never mind the clubs, for himself to sort of get the best of Marcus Rashford in the next year or two.
He's on a post-World Cup holiday due to return to Carrington, I think about August the 10th for pre-season training. I think he's at least going to start the season as a Manchester United player. Let's see how he ends the transfer window. On the subject of forwards, I want to talk to you about Harry Kane, or more pertinently, what comes next after Harry Kane. 6 goals for him at the World Cup. Obviously didn't, in the end, challenge really for the Golden Boot. But you look at the backup options at number 9. Ivan Toney only got a couple of minutes when England were chasing the game against Argentina. Ollie Watkins didn't play much either. The worry for me is Harry Kane going to be the force he is now in 2 years' time at the Euros, let alone 4 years' time in the World Cup? And what comes next? Because there doesn't seem to be a next cab off the rank. Who is going to be England's next number 9, Kev?
Yeah, and that's been a problem. And even when we were, when I was in the FA for a short time, we were looking at that, and England number 9s, very few and far between. You've got the likes of Dominic Solanke, who's had real big issues since he's gone to Tottenham with injuries. Then Calvert-Lewin, who had a fantastic season last year. They'll probably be a bit younger than him at the time. So Calvert-Lewin again, injury, lots of injuries with Everton. Went to Leeds, done a lot better, but can he go through a full season and then maybe go to a major tournament? Who knows? You've got the likes of Liam Delap, who's not really done it since he's gone to Chelsea. Is this going to be a season for him, where he comes out and stand out because of Alonso coming in? It's a big year for him to sort of put his name in that forefront, really. All the other ones, Eddie Nketiah, I work with Dane Scarlett and Will Lancashire doing the 20s. So these are the lads who you've got, who are probably the number 9s coming through the FA at this moment in time, but they're not people who are standing out and going, we can take over and take the mantelpiece, and take the mantle off Harry Kane. So, yeah, worrying times for that number 9. Are we going to have to create one within the squad?
Well, I was going to say that. Is there an argument? Maybe you've had Bellingham in a more advanced role, or Anthony Gordon has played as a false 9 for Newcastle. At times he actually played the whole of the Under-21 European Championships when England won it as a false number 9.
Yeah, and that's probably what the manager's got to do is what the next option is. But let's not take away from what Harry Kane's doing at this moment in time. It is a worry in the next couple of years because, as you just said, 34 in the next tournament, 36 in the next World Cup. That's probably going to be just probably a bit too far for Harry, I should imagine, unless you see what he's done over the last year or two in Germany. If he can continue to get them numbers, then you won't be taking it away. But I think he probably, if he's going to go in 4 years' time, there'll be more to come on and sort of affect the game, if you like. So yeah, worrying times for that number 9, I think. And I'm not too sure who's now the standout candidate to take over the mantle of it, and I think we might have to be a little bit cute and with it, and let's see what's the space.
How will Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney be feeling after their World Cup summer? I think Watkins came on in the game against Ghana 0-0, and obviously Toney thrust on at the end against Argentina when Thomas Tuchel was desperate by that stage, but they'll be frustrated when they're not to have got more minutes. That Harry
Without
Kane,
a shadow of a doubt,
Harry Kane wasn't rested more.
Yeah, well, not only that, I just think there's moments where you could, you can get him off the field when you're winning, and it's not going to really take away from what Ollie and what Ivan could do, and I think that's the biggest thing. So when we see him in the Argentina game getting late on, I thought it was a real shoe-in. I know he's a penalty taker, he's a bit more man for the moment, but Ollie Watkins has done it. In the Euros, got us back in, scored a great goal, decent enough signing, but would have given us pace to go in behind the Argentinians, as well as Ivan Toney playing off someone. So we had chances and opportunities to put them in, but I think there's a thing with Harry that we don't seem to be able to take him off the field, and I feel managers feel that pressure a bit sometimes. And when you've got quality of what we had on the bench, I think we've got to make them big decisions, and that's what we were all expecting from Thomas. And I think that's where he's probably getting heavily criticised from.
Another player who didn't play a single minute was Kobe Main, who left out the third place game with a back injury. Seemed to cut a very frustrated figure, even in those post-game celebrations when the England players were
very strange for me, this one, Crookie, to take someone and not even give them an opportunity, especially because Deck was really struggling. You know, you could see that really long season, emotionally as well as physically. You know, you could see that. I could see that within Deck. You know, and then he picked up. You know, he had that neural problem with his hamstring, which is they're never nice. They're never nice. And Deck is not one to complain. So I know that's a real problem. You know, obviously back issues, everything else with all the travel and all that type of stuff. Then he picks up a bug. To not then put in another centre midfielder into that position who's been there and at the second half of the season what he did for Manchester United, I just found it really strange. And I think these are probably the things when they have reviewed and they've questioned, these are the questions which Thomas is going to have to answer. You know, why did that happen? Why it wasn't that? You know, and I think, you know, Thomas being Thomas, I think, you know, he's got to stand up and what we'd all come to expect from him is that he's got to be honest with what he tells us.
I'm not saying this did happen, and we have to believe the FA that he was injured, but would Cobby have been within his rights if he was going to play a part in that third place game and say, do you know what? You've not picked me all tournament. You're probably not going to pick me for your next squad. I don't want to risk an injury. I'm out.
Well, I'd be very surprised because it's your country, isn't it? And it's a third, you know, it's a chance to become third in there and sort of showcase your ability and sort of go, right, you should play me, yeah, and prove them wrong. And I think if you've got the character where you're looking at it and going, oh, I'm not going to chance it. I think that's not the character that I want to see on the football pitch playing in an England shirt. I think it's the one where I want to see him going, watch this.
Which is what Bukayo Saka did with a hat-trick. I mean, again,
exactly.
Still puzzles me that Saka was fit enough to score a hat-trick in a game that really didn't mean anything, but not fit enough to...
Well, he said afterwards as well, didn't he? He's been fit and he felt fit and he's ready. So, again, that's what I'm saying. All these questions, what are coming now, and I think it'll just always continue over the next week or two. You know, as players come back to the clubs as well, they'll be asked about the World Cup ventures. There'll be more people talking about it. There'll be probably more loose lips than what they are when they're in the camp.
Agreed.
So it's going to be interesting in the next 4 to 6 weeks, certainly when all them lads start going back to the Burn Club.
Yeah, the fallout will continue. Martin in Billericay's been on about Marcus Rashford. Here's a novel solution to the issue. What if Rashford takes a pay cut, even though he'd have to struggle along on less money? It'll never catch on, Martin. This is talkSPORT.
Let's talk Morgan Rogers. Obviously, Middlesbrough will be quite happy as well, Crookie.
Yeah, I think they get 15 million quid there or thereabouts from their sell-on.
Yeah.
This is a move that's come somewhat out of the blue because I've felt for the last few weeks the direction of travel was that Morgan Rogers ends up at Arsenal. I know that his advisors have been in talks with Arsenal for quite a few weeks now, but I'm not sure that Arsenal were willing to pay the asking price of Chelsea of season opportunity, £117 million, a British record fee, and he's on his way to Stamford Bridge. I think Arteta is going to be really disappointed because Rodgers was his top target. Arsenal could offer Champions League football. Chelsea, of course, can't offer European football of any form. But from an Aston Villa perspective, this should give them the platform now to go on and find their way around the financial issues they've had with UEFA in particular and be able to bring in reinforcements. They need them, don't they? Because they've not only lost Morgan Rogers, they've lost Yuri Tillemans to Manchester United. Luca Digne is on his way to Paris.
Ben Fletcher, good afternoon. Les Ferdinand is calling for a stand at St James's Park to be renamed in Kevin Keegan's honour. Part of a must-watch Newcastle side in the 90s alongside Alan Shearer, Faustino Asprilla and David Ginola. Warren Barton also played for Keegan's entertainers.
He would treat us all differently, but knew how to press our buttons and make sure that we was going out there, and made it pretty clear earlier on that we was playing for the fans. They was working hard Monday to Friday, and we better bloody go out there and perform for the fans.
The two-time Ballon d'Or winner has been described as a superstar who kept his feet on the ground. Henry Winter says King Kev was a joy to deal with as a journalist.
You could fall out with him if you critiqued him on certain things with England. Gareth Southgate in midfield, famously or infamously against Germany, the last game at Wembley, the old Wembley. And then you could fall back in with him within seconds because he was such an enthusiastic character.
Keegan also once trained the press football team.
You just came away totally enthused and feeling like you too could be a Ballon d'Or winner.
Next, the president of La Liga has called on Gianni Infantino to quit and has accused FIFA of destroying the football industry. Javier Tebas admits there doesn't appear to be anyone to challenge his leadership, though, describing the election system as sick at the source. Elsewhere, Ipswich have signed goalkeeper Kane van Uvelen from Volendam. That's a permanent deal. We're told West Ham are considering selling Crescencio Somerville to Roma. They've bid $40 million. talkSPORT understands Alex Scott turned down a new contract at Bournemouth, but the club don't expect him to leave this summer. This as Chelsea value Nicholas Jackson at $65 million, with Villa said to be sniffing around. And Vinny Jr. has had facial harmonisation surgery in Brazil to make his chin stronger and more defined. Fans online say he now looks more like former Chelsea midfielder Ramirez. You can see the pictures for yourself at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
A coroner says Anne Widdecombe's cause of death is yet to be established, and parts of the UK are now close to drought. More from Sangeeta at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Keep summer journeys safe. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com to book your tyres, MOTs and servicing, so you can drive away happy every time.
Dry with sunny spells, warmest in the south, cloudy across Northern Ireland and the north of Scotland with some light showers.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan here on talkSPORT with you for one more hour before H&J take over. We are, of course, still reacting to Spain's 1-0 victory over Argentina in the World Cup final, asking what the future might hold with Thomas Tuchel with suggestions. The Italian FA are in talks with Pep Guardiola. Lots of transfer chat as well. We're going to be joined by the Hull City owner, Adjun Ilikali, very shortly. Just a bit of a suggestion, though, Kev, that Chelsea could be looking at offering John Stones a Premier League lifeline, of course, leaving Manchester City as a free agent when his contract expires this summer. Would that be a sensible pickup? Didn't have a bad World Cup, actually. When he
listen, I've a lot of admiration for him. He's an absolute top end central defender, been top of the game 10 years. I think he's been at Man City, hasn't he? Maybe even longer. They made the decision for them to part ways, but I think this is an absolute brilliant signing for Chelsea if they can get that over the line for him, to go in, bit of experience along all the the youngsters and the youth of what they're trying to do. To put someone of his calibre in that dressing room would only help, I think, and it'd be a great signing for both, really.
And you can see what Chelsea are crying out for is a bit of Premier League know-how, a bit of Premier League experience. I reported a couple of days ago they're also talking to Crystal Palace about Maxence Lacroix. Yeah. It does come away from maybe the recruitment model we've seen since Bluco came in. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing was when Alonso got it, he said that he's going to need experience. I think he's probably had that conversation that we're going to need experience to come in to help these youngsters to bring them along to be the best version of themselves in the coming years. And John Stones will be probably one of the best signings I think you could possibly have. He's not been great with injuries, but would he be expected to do what he was doing at Man City, with everything what's going on? I don't think so. I think the fact that there's no European football there, it'll give him something which is going to be great for next season, really, to give him and establish himself and help them young lads around him. Do you expect Chelsea to be much stronger under Alonso? Next season they were.
We played his team when he his Leverkusen side, and when they went through that season where they lost in the final, won every other game, and he had a real big mixture. And Granit Xhaka was a massive person and player in that team.
And they tried to sign him, of course, earlier this summer.
Exactly, and you could see how much admiration he's got for him and what he's done since he's come back to the Premier League. And I feel like that's what Alonso will want. He'll want someone of his stature and a John Stones stature within that Chelsea Chelsea squad. Easy for me to say, would be an absolute fantastic sign, and I think it'll be brilliant for both sides.
It feels like it could be a really competitive season at the top end of the table. Obviously, Arsenal looking to try and strengthen, missed out on Morgan Rogers. Tottenham have thrown massive money around by their standards. You'd imagine Liverpool will be better under Andoni Iraola. Michael Carrick's going to get a full pre-season to get his ideas across at Manchester United. Chelsea, who we've mentioned, Villa, would like to think they can possibly kick on, although they've lost key players. That battle for the top 5, and it should be 5 place in the Champions League, is going to be intense. Yeah, and
Newcastle come into that again. When being in the situation what they are, they all want to have a good summer. Obviously, it's not been ideal at the moment. They've lost out, so with a few. But recruiting sort of down that younger level. So big season for everybody.
Well, Hull against Manchester United is one of our first Premier League commentaries this season here on talkSPORT. 12:30 on the opening Saturday of the season. Delighted to say, good friend of the station, Ajun Ilakali, the Hull City owner, joins us now. Ajun, before we get into Hull City, it's been a busy summer already. I know you were over at the World Cup. You were in Atlanta as England crashed out to Argentina. What did you make of it, and where do you stand on Thomas Tuchel? Because I've been quite public on this. I think he should step down.
Actually, I was hoping England to be in the final for sure. I think the squad was fantastic. If you ask me how is it seen from your side, but from outside of England, I can say that England squad looks like, for me, the best squad after Paul Gascoigne and Lineker times. And I remember this squad was in the semi-final and they lost to Germany, which was very normal on penalties. But this squad should have done for sure better. I think an extremely big coaching problems the team had. And because of these problems, England couldn't go to the final. I mean, I have to be very honest. Your team, I think, is a fantastic team with a super squad. I think it has everything. Star players, yes. Working boys, yes. Passion, yes. And I think friendship in the team is yes. But only coaching sometimes destroys everything. For me, extreme coaching problems.
So therefore, if you were head of the FA and you're not afraid of making big calls, would Thomas Tuchel be out the door?
Actually, if I had any responsibility in British football, I would change the coach yesterday. Not today, yesterday. Because for me, a nation coach has to do what everybody thinks, first of all. I mean, he shouldn't bring new inventions. He shouldn't bring some ideas that nobody is within. So for me, from the coaching side, a national team coach has to give some decisions that most of the nations should agree. I cannot come to England and say that, for example, Cole Palmer is out. It's not so easy. He's a star player for me. Also, you don't play soccer in the most important game. I cannot do something like that. I'm representing a country. So if I'm representing and get the responsibility of a big country like England and one of the biggest football country, I cannot create something in the game like not playing one of the best wingers in the world. And Gibbs White is not in the squad. For me, Rush, for example, think like this. The Anthony Gordon scores a goal. He is so much happy, motivated. He's out. I mean, there are so many psychological things I think was touched from the manager side that I wouldn't forgive if I had any responsibility. Because he made the team, I think, lose the confidence by taking them back. But most importantly, I mean, you don't need to know football in detail that Messi is still in top 5 in the world, dangerous in the last third of the pitch. And if you bring Messi like a last third of the pitch, he did nothing almost last 30 minutes. Then he started showing all his talent and intelligence. And I think it was like suicide. I'm very disappointed. I went to Atlanta. I would like to celebrate the win with British fans, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think we all share those sentiments. Let's focus on Hull City, because we are rapidly approaching the start of the Premier League. I know you're hugely excited about that. Manchester United, as I've mentioned, on the opening day. How's your summer gone so far? It seems to be quite busy for you in terms of transfer negotiations.
Think about us like a volcano, just boiling now, and it's going to erupt. So at the moment, we are preparing, of course, a good squad. At the moment, I'm very, very happy. Not happy, very, very happy, because the targets we have, 80% is processing good. We have to make a new team. We have to bring 10 players at least, I think. 10 or 12 players we're going to bring. So, of course, I cannot pronounce the names. But I know you're disappointed, maybe, but sorry for that. I can say that we are in very good shape. Closing deals, in 1 week, 3-4 new players will come. Today I had the news. I'm so excited. I'm going to tweet for my fans the clues. I always do like this. I just give the clues. They know how to find the player. So it's going very good. We are very excited. Manchester United game, I'm sure you are excited too.
Well, I'm approaching that with a little bit of trepidation, to be fair, but I'm going to be there alongside you. I'll try and pronounce one name, if I can. Konstantinos Zalakis, the goalkeeper from Olympiacos. I think your coach, Sergei Yakirovich, said last week that deal was getting closer. Is that still the case? Are you expecting that one to go through?
Yes, we are expecting. He's a very talented, I would say that, important goalkeeper. That will have a very good future, I think. He's very young, 23, 24, and he has the responsibility of a big club like Olympiacos. And I'm very happy that we convinced him. Actually, he is the guy who saved 3 penalties in quarterfinal of Conference League in Kadıköy against Fenerbahçe. So he made us lose our dreams of getting the cup at that day. But I'm happy that we will be with him very probably together. So he's a very talented boy. And I hope in 2-3 days we can finalize. I hope. In football, you never know everything until it's done, It happened so many times in many clubs, including Hull City too.
One of the big reasons you were so successful last season is that you made a deliberate decision to target proven championship players, some sort of wily old campaigner. Dolly McBurney is the obvious example. Is that going to be the same in the Premier League? Are you looking for some players with Premier League pedigree as well as these signings from overseas?
A very good question, because you cannot go one way, like all the Premier League ex-players or players, or no Premier League players, just new talents. You have to get the mixture. So I can say that we will bring like 4 or 5 experienced Premier League players, I think 3, 4, 5 around. Apart from that, we are in touch with very good talents. We know what is our advantage. The players, for example, cannot play in Manchester United, Chelsea. They know that, but they are very talented. So our target is these boys. They can play in the future in Manchester United, but they will not have time at the moment. So what I always tell them, instead of going there, waiting, come here. This is the best platform in the world, Premier League. Show your talent with us. Then if you prove your talent, you will be in the first level when you go Manchester United. So these boys, like 22, 23, 24, there's so many big talents in Europe now. And of course, I'm happy to say, I'm proud to say, last year, we were just trying to convince players, like it took 3 months for me to convince Oli McBurney. So can you imagine how hard it is to bring the players? Last year, a team who was almost getting relegated. Now, still we're in Premier League. So we have better cards. So this time, we are waiting for the best one, not other side. So sometimes we find a player, but we are looking for another one, better one. And thank God that now it is easier to convince, which is the best thing in life.
And just one more question before I let you go. It was quite well documented that you paid for your players in the wake of that playoff final victory to go and celebrate in Las Vegas. I'm intrigued to know how big was that bill by the end of it, because they look like they got stuck in.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting day. After this is funny, of course, maybe coincidence, maybe not. I don't know. But the funny thing is, after I said them, I'm going to take you to Las Vegas, after if we are go to Premier League, the team didn't concede one goal. Those semi-finals, clean sheet, final, clean sheet. I think in football, touching players is so important. I lived by myself in the deepest level.
Enough said, Jude. Brilliant. Thanks very much for joining us as always, and we're going to keep speaking to you throughout the summer, and I'll keep looking for those clues on social media as well. There you go, Junior Licali. What a character he is. What a season in prospect for Hull. As I say, they open up live on talkSPORT against Manchester United, first Saturday of the season. That'll be a 12:30 kickoff. You are listening to White and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
There is a line that you should not overstep, and they overstepped it communally numerous times.
Got to be a long ban.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you look at it, Jeff, if you watch it back 5 or 6 times, Paredes, what we say, on Garcia, he grabs his neck, and the way Garcia's after the game, Garcia's neck jolts. That's assault.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like, it's assault.
Like you, Stuart Pearce believes that the Argentinian midfielder needs an incredibly strong punishment.
But you've got to say, and just to back up exactly what you've just said there, sometimes in life and in football, what goes round comes round. And that's exactly what's happened to Argentina today. And I'm sure FIFA will see the punch that was thrown at the end of the game, and obviously they were quite happy to extend a 6-game ban for a Qatari player, and I'm sure when they see a punch like that, it will probably warranty a 20-game ban. I'm sure FIFA will be right on top of this, Abe.
Yeah. Well, they should be, because something's got to be done to stop.
You want to feel
like
safe on the pitch, don't you, Jeff? Do you know what I mean? You can't let the punishment has to be that big that no one ever does that.
It is assault. You've got it absolutely right.
No matter what happens in football, you can be angry you lost, but be classy in defeat.
Yeah.
Don't like. Do you know what I mean? If you want to fight, Paredes, there's places to fight. Not on a pitch against a Garcia. The way he was manhandling, I think it was Gavi, 21-year-old kid, and you're throwing him around on the pitch. That's someone's son, someone's brother.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
That's right. Today on talkSPORT, we're giving you the chance to walk away with up to £1,000 in association with our friends at BetMGM. Joining us now, randomly selected from all the online entries, is Russell. Russell, very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Russell.
Hiya, how you doing?
Yeah, we're good. How are you feeling about the competition?
A little bit nervous. So I got the call on Friday and I've been brushing up over the weekend. So hopefully get a couple right.
I think you'll be just fine looking at these questions. Just to remind you, 5 football-related questions in total. For every one you get right, you'll win £200. The maximum you can walk away with today is £1,000. Are you ready to go?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, who scored the winning goal for Spain in the 106th minute of this year's World Cup final on Sunday?
The winning goal was Ferran Torres.
It was indeed. In France's 4-2 victory against Norway in this year's World Cup, which player netted a hat-trick for his side?
Guess it, Mbappe.
Ousmane Dembele is the answer. Which legendary former Premier League manager returned to the dugout to take charge of Everton during the 25-26 campaign?
Pass.
David Moyes. Kevin's old colleague. In the round of 16, which World Cup tournament co-host suffered a 4-1 defeat to Belgium?
That would have been USA.
That would indeed. Another £200 in the kitty. And finally, which team won last year's Carabao Cup?
Was it Man City?
It was. Well done, Russell. £600 pinging its way to you. What are you going to spend it on?
Probably it's summer holidays now, so I've got the kids, and they'll probably be taking them for some days out.
Oh, lovely. Well, enjoy that, Russell. Thanks very much for joining us. You answered 3 questions correctly, meaning you walk away with £600. We'll be playing again tomorrow. Simply head to talksport.com, competitions to enter. That's all thanks to BetMGM, 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus, gambleaware.org.
Okay, you are listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan on talkSPORT. We've been speaking all morning about Thomas Tuchel's future, whether the FA should pivot potentially to Pep Guardiola following news he's in talks with the Italian Football Federation. Chris has joined us. Chris, what's your take on it?
Well, my take on it, hello there, Alex, and good evening, Kevin Nolan as well.
How are you, mate?
Good morning, Robert, to say. Yeah, not bad. Well, the thing is, look, I mean, the trouble is, I think my gut reaction was, look, we've brought this guy in to get us the extra mile. He hasn't done that. I mean, I thought that, you know, as Simon John would say, can we beat somebody on paper who we're not meant to beat, if that makes sense? And for me, Argentina, France, Spain fall in that category. We didn't beat Spain. The problem you've got is with the FA is they're going to look. If you look at it objectively, he's got to the semi-finals, you know, and I think they were saying previously there was a performance clause in his contract. I mean, my argument is, well, you know, is that really sackable? Get us to semi-finals?
No, I think that expired after round of 16. Actually, I think there was even a sort of change of mind at the FA that if England were to lose to Mexico and the Azteca, that would have been okay as well.
Yeah, but as I say, exactly. I mean, the thing is, you see, it's the problem, that performance-related cause. If you look at it in terms of tournament progression, it's not really a sackable offence to get a semi-final. I mean, Bobby Robson, if you remember, he got us to the semi-finals.
I think it's more the way that he managed the last 25 minutes, Kev. That's where the questions will be asked. If we go on toe-to-toe with Argentina and just lost in a normal fashion, I don't think we'd be even having these conversations.
No, I think exactly that. I think the biggest thing for us was that when we went 1-0 up, we were well in the game. There was nothing in it. Messi had been quiet. They would have to do something to change it. What we did, we changed it for them. We went really defensively, and then we changed. We put another defender on, then another defender, and I think that's where all the frustration comes from, and all the questions are coming from now. It's not because of what's happened. It's because of what's happened after that 60-minute mark, if you like, and then you have a sort of hydration break.
Yeah.
To sort of get it right and do something different and try and get you to work out something for them. And it doesn't seem that anything changed. And I think it just felt like that we were going to hang on and the inevitable was going to happen in the end. And then when it did, it just, everybody sort of was like, well, we could all see that one coming. And what what everybody's asking is, we've brought Thomas in to do something different, and we don't think it changed.
Ash, the Liverpool fan, has also called 03717 22 what do you make of it all, Ash? The reaction to the Argentina defeat and what it means for Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah, afternoon, gents. Like I say, I've listened to a few shows ever since it happened, and like everybody, I was gutted. I think when you look at how low England have been, I mean, I was there in 2014 when we played Costa Rica in the group, and I've never felt that way as an England fan in all my life. 2 games gone, we can't do anything to qualify. We've got some world-class players on the pitch. It'd be sorted to something like a 0-0 draw. It was numbing. I haven't really felt like that as an England fan since. I've had some wonderful moments. I'm always grateful to the managers that we've had in, and we've tried everything, haven't we? We've tried foreign managers, English managers, and now we're stuck with a guy that's come in and he promised us everything, and really, truthfully, he's broken our hearts, but I don't think he's the root cause of the problem here. He's a contributing factor to what's gone on, but I don't think he's entirely the root cause, and until we find a way to grow into a tournament, and not get so tired as that tournament progresses, I think we're always going to have a problem. I think it's the demand of the game in general, worldwide. It's not just us. And we see it time and time again. I think Spain are probably the standouts. But did any team really grow into a tournament where you thought they're getting better, they're going to be a threat in the later stages? Because I know we didn't. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing broke my heart. Well, the whole thing broke my heart, but...
Yeah, no, absolutely, Ash. It is a bit harsh on Spain, but actually, if you scratch beneath that, Brazil were poor, Germany were poor, the Dutch were poor, Portugal were poor, France were poor, really.
In the semi-finals.
Yeah.
Well, everyone was talking about that beforehand, Crooks, and like they're going, well, France are the ones who, have been, looked really good, and Mbappe being in that, that goal, what he scored. So we were all expecting that, and even as I said earlier on in the show, I was in Spain at the time, and they were all expecting that France were the ones to beat them, and France were the favourites because of the way they had played all through the tournament with Elise and Mbappe and Dembele and then Barcola, and so they were the ones who were, sort of everybody was looking, and Spain just done the job all the way through, and you can sort of see it when you sort of take a step back and look at it. So,
but if you I just think England have lost to at tournaments past. I think there's an argument to say that Argentina are one of the weaker sides.
Without a shot, and this is the problem. What I'm finding, there's as a manager, you don't really want to question fellow managers, but in this opportunity, I just feel that there's questions to be asked, and the questions from the FA to Thomas, and then from when you guys all get to see him again in his next press conference is why this, why that, and we just want honest answers, because it simply wasn't good enough to have, 12%, possession after the goal goes in, when it was basically even throughout that first 60 minutes. There wasn't great in it, but we got the first goal, and that you feel that with that first goal, 2 centre-halves on yellow cards, problematic in right and left back, not great. So let's go and get at them, and let's go and now do something, and that's what we were expecting. And because it didn't come, it's now made it, where the frustration is.
I think I'm right in saying, actually, talkSPORT have got a sit-down interview with Thomas Tuchel in the coming weeks. Stuart Pearce and Adrian Durham, I think, are due to hold.
Well, hopefully Aid won't all back. Pierce, you might, but...
I don't think so. He's a proud Englishman, so we look forward to that. Coming up next on the programme, we're going to turn our attention to boxing. Anthony Joshua returning to the ring this weekend. Adam Cattrall, talkSPORT Fight Night host, will be with us very shortly.
who would have even dreamt that 6-4 would be the scoreline in
a madness,
the third and fourth place game?
A 10-goal quote-unquote thriller, an absolute candy floss
And you see
of a
the
game of
chances
football
that were missed as well.
Oh, I watched it live last night, and I went back over. My notes from when I'm watching a game are often an absolute madness when I read back over them. And I'm
Are
like,
you on little bits of paper, or is it a big sheet?
No, I actually, weirdly, I WhatsApp them to myself. So I write them in my phone as I'm watching, and as there's breaks in play, etc. And one of the things I wrote is England could have scored 6 in the first half. France could have scored 9 in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a absolute madness of a game of football. But is it one you take in any way seriously?
Well, it's hard to... Could you imagine that game and that result being in the tournament as a semi-final game?
Absolutely not.
That's just not going to happen. So I mean, watching the performance with England against, Argentina, we talked a lot about it yesterday, and what England didn't do. And then we watch the next game and England do everything they should have done, as in the type of players to get into space and run behind the opposition's defence. England done it all the time. It was like, well, you didn't see that once in the last 35 minutes of a game against Argentina. And then every, minute and a half, 2 minutes, you saw someone breaking from...
Who would have thought a sporting event's halftime show could have a bigger impact than the game itself? That seems to be the case with the Super Bowl halftime show. In 2024, Usher brought in an audience of 180 million worldwide, the biggest in the event's history. But how did singing and dancing get to be the centerpiece of America's biggest sporting event? The first Super Bowl was held in 1967. Initially, the halftime show was a display purely for the fans in the stadium, with marching bands, dancers, and American patriotism for all to see. And that's what it was for the first few years. Disney had a go with a few questionable displays in the 1980s, but it wasn't until '93 that we got the first glimpse into the future of halftime shows. Michael Jackson's stellar performance gave NFL execs something to think about. A raft of massive names followed, including Diana Ross, U2, Janet Jackson, who gave us the most famous or infamous wardrobe malfunction of all time. So how many people are involved? To give you an idea of the scale, Rihanna's 2023 performance included 800 people, and experts reckon it cost $13 million. What's even more impressive than some of the names on the bill every year is the fact they do it for free. The artists know the exposure they'll get from doing the show will rocket them up the charts across the world. The Super Bowl halftime show will be a fixture in pop culture for years to come. So the question is, who next?
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Anthony Joshua's comeback starts this Saturday as he faces Christian Prenga. Watch only on DAZN Saturday Fight Night.
Yes, this Saturday, Anthony Joshua's comeback starts as he faces Christian Prenga. So let's look ahead to the big fight now with DAZN. Delighted to say joining me now is a man I last saw in a Soho karaoke bar after the talkSPORT Christmas party, Adam Cattrall. How you doing?
You all right, mate?
You grass, what you doing? Can't be doing that.
I remember you leading the charge that night, mate. It was all on you.
Listen, I'm disappointed that I've turned up and you've not got your cowboy hat on, pal. What's going on here?
It's been retired. The World Cup is officially over.
Is that it? Okay, fair enough, mate.
Mrs. Crook hates it. Let's talk about Saturday, shall we? I mean, how emotional is this going to be for AJ, bearing in mind the personal trauma that he's been through?
I would imagine quite quite substantial, mate, because this, for me, at the weekend is all about the process. It's about whether AJ is okay mentally and emotionally about going through the fight week process. The noises are good. Everybody that I've spoken to has said, listen, he's had a great camp. He's teamed up with Team Usyk. He's been working like he always works. I mean, lads, look at him. He's always in sensational shape, isn't he? But this is more of the process of a fight week. This is the first time that he has been in this situation without his two best pals that sadly lost their lives at the back end of last year. If he can go through that process and come out the back end with a smile on his face, having enjoyed the fight week and obviously with a result that obviously favours him off the back of this fight with Christian Prenga, then fingers crossed we can all point towards something quite spectacular at the end of the year.
Just a quick one. How dangerous is Prenga to him? You know, with what he's gone through.
I'll be honest, not very. On paper, you look at this and it's not a competitive fight, but as you just said, Kev, it is everything that Anthony Joshua has gone through over the last 6 to 9 months. If it's the old Anthony Joshua, I'm fully anticipating the Anthony Joshua that maybe turned up against Otto Warland to be the guy that we saw. That we see on Saturday night, a guy that gets behind his jab, pieces up his opponent, breaks him down over a couple of rounds, and then lets the bombs go and detonates by the back end of the fight. On paper, I'll be dead honest, mate. It's not competitive at all. Listen, I know that Prenga's got this amazing knockout ratio that everybody talks about, but look at the guys that he's been in with. He hasn't been in with anyone. This is a gigantic step up for Christian Prenga at the weekend. And if he does manage to land something, and he's basically winning the lottery at the weekend. It's a massive ask for him.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from the man himself, shall we? AJ has been speaking to our friends at DAZN ahead of this fight, and he was asked what he still wants to achieve in the sport.
You know, I was thinking about why I do it today. What's the purpose? I still feel like I've got a lot of room for improvement. I feel like it's definitely my identity. I went through a big transition of shutting down companies and realigning my focus again because I want to do it. I want to do it to my best of my capability. So the goal is obviously to set yourself up to be able to stop. Yeah. But ultimately, I don't want to. I still feel really good.
There's still dreams and targets that you're going for that you haven't got yet?
Yeah, so I believe that the undisputed target is the one. Because I think in my mind, what's beneath that? Unification. What's beneath that? World champion. So let's set the bar where I know I can go.
And it's a big bar.
It's a big bar, but I believe that it's one that can be achieved. And on the way to that, I become world champ. On the way to that, I become unified champ. And on the way to that, I got an opportunity to fight for the undisputed champion. So it's a great journey. It's a great progression that I can see happening all in front of me.
Adam, that certainly is a high bar to want to be undisputed champion. Is that realistic? Is that within the realms of possibility?
Oh, when you hear him say it, my initial thought is no, it's not realistic because I think maybe those days have passed. But boxing's it's a mad old game. It's very political. We've got Alexander Usyk who is on his way out. We've just seen him relinquish quite a lot of those championship belts. Those belts are now up in the sky. And who knows? Anthony Joshua is still one of the fighters that is the money in this division. And with the way that boxing works politically, there could be an opportunity that he gets another shot at a world title. If that goes well, then you would automatically think that a unification would be the next step for that. And if that goes well, then undisputed status would be there. I personally think it's far-fetched. I think it's way off into the distance. I think it's one fight at a time for Anthony Joshua right now. But I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that he can become the world champion again.
I mean, just going away from AJ and then just talking about Fury. Obviously, he fights Friday night. We're not going to get to see it because of his show and everything. Are we expecting to see him on Saturday then turn up and have this sort of showdown and WWE style showdown for the upcoming fight between the two?
I'd like to think so, Kev. I mean, listen, with the amount of money that's knocking about in Saudi Arabia, I'm sure they can stick him on a private jet off the back of everything that happens in Thailand. And it is the fight that everybody wants to see, especially here in Great Britain. It's the one to put the bow on that particular era. Who is the best of that particular era? And I know that you just referred to it as a bit of WWE, but it sells, doesn't it? People
of course it does. Of course it does, mate, yeah.
They want to see these lads go nose to nose. They want to see him have a little bit of verbals. They want to get the fans hyped. Because this fight and these two guys with the promotion companies that they're connected to, for some weird reason, it's made boxing quite tribal. It's made it quite like following a football team. You either follow AJ or you follow Fury. It doesn't seem to me that you get guys that follow both of them. So therefore, I think it would be great at the end of AJ's fight on Saturday night, if Fury is in the vicinity, for them to get in the ring, go nose to nose, the fight's signed. It'll get everybody super hyped, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they can actually get that on British soil. I don't know how possible that is at the end of the year, but hopefully they can get it on British soil by the back end of the year.
I'm going to put you under pressure here, Ad. Where would you think it'll go? Which way?
Where do I think the fight will actually happen? And who do I think will win it?
Yeah, both, basically.
Kev, what's this all about, man? Right, okay. I personally believe that, listen, we've had 10 years to make that fight, and we haven't. So therefore, obviously, Turki Al-Sheikh's come in with all this money, and he is well within his right to take that fight wherever he's going to take it. Right. I would hope that he puts it in front of British fans on British soil, because for me, it is the pinnacle of what we've been waiting for. I think we'll get a 2-fight deal. I think the first one will be wherever he wants to put it, wherever it makes the most money for him, wherever it gets the most eyeballs, whether that's America, Saudi Arabia, or whatever. I think the second one in next year will be for the British fight fans.
Right.
And right now, I haven't seen either of these guys fight at the weekend, but right now, my gut instinct is that Tyson Fury will come through on points in that fight. Yeah. But things can change, mate. If Anthony Joshua's absolutely devastating at the weekend, I might change my mind.
What does he need to do to change your mind? That was going to be my next question, because you obviously don't expect Prenga to cause him too many troubles. Does he need to win well? Does he need an early knockout to make a statement that he's back?
I wouldn't say an early knockout. Listen, that'd be great if he does. I wouldn't say an early knockout. I want to see Anthony Joshua do what he did against Wallin, where that was a potential banana skin. Loads of people were talking that fight up off the back of what Wallin did against Gassiev away from home in Turkey. Joshua went in there. He pieced him up with the jab. Wallin couldn't get near him. And that's what I want to see against Prenga. I want to see him play with him. And then I want to see that speed, that straight 1-2, which has been his signature shot for a whole of his career. I want to see that. And I do want to see him take him out, probably in and around the mid-rounds. If he can do.
Oh, we seem to have just lost Adam's audio at the vital moment there. But, I mean, it's interesting that we're going to get a chance to see Joshua in all his glory, but the Fury fight obviously is not on live television anymore.
Yeah, he's taking all the money for himself, isn't he? Tyson. But no, look, I mean, we've always wanted it, haven't we? Wanted Fury, wanted AJ. So I'm delighted that it's finally here. But I'm just gutted that it wasn't 5 years ago.
Agreed.
You know, and I think because we would have seen some. You know, I think we would have seen a proper war then. You know, I think now it might be just a bit more of a. You know, as he said there, he's expecting that it'll go the full round. I think we would have seen knockouts. I think we would have seen, you know, a sort of Deontay Wilder, Fiore type, you know, rising above it and things like that. I just think, I'm just so disappointed. But I'm glad that it's finally done. I'm glad that the fight's finally done, and we're going to see it.
Oh, thanks to Adam Cattrall for joining us there, our Fight Night host. He ran out of voice there quicker than he did in that karaoke bar. That was a look ahead to AJ versus Prenga with DAZN. Join DAZN Ultimate for 185 plus fight nights and 12 plus pay-per-views every year, including Joshua versus Prenga, all included, no extra cost. Buy now at dazn.com.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. This Saturday, it's danger before destiny for Anthony Joshua. Joshua versus Prenga, live exclusively on DAZN.
Just coming up for 1:45 on this Tuesday afternoon, so one more section before Kev and I leave you at 1 o'clock and H&J take over. We're going to talk Arsenal next. Missed out on Morgan Rogers, but will they get Bruno Guimaraes?
Viva España. Thank you, Spain. Muchas gracias, España. Ferran Torres, you absolute beauty. You have saved football, because from start to finish, whether it's Tom Cruise's pathetic speech about unity in front of Donald Trump, whether it's the game starting 6 minutes late, whether it's the disgraceful refereeing which allowed Argentina to push, scratch, foul and dive their way into extra time, whether it's the most egregious decision to chalk off Nico Williams' opener, whether it's the ridiculous halftime show which wasn't even good, or Infantino chasing after Donald Trump after the trophy was handed out. This World Cup in so many ways was an absolute circus, and Argentina, who might have produced two of the world's best players, have been an ugly addition to this World Cup, and I'm glad they got their just desserts. The only shining light in the stadium was Spain, and I've just enjoyed the biggest hate watch of my life. Thank you, Spain. You've saved football.
Max, I'm with you all the way, mate. Look.
You're listening to Alex Crook and Kevin Nolan right here on talkSPORT. We're going to speak about one of Kev's former clubs, Newcastle, in just a moment. But Arsenal, first and foremost, Kev, missed out on Morgan Rogers to Chelsea. He had his medical yesterday, passed his medical yesterday, as we understand it. So a formal announcement on that £117 million deal is imminent. How big a blow is that for Mikel Arteta? Because we know for a fact at talkSPORT, Arteta met Morgan Rogers face-to-face even before the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he will find it as a bit of a blow, but I think probably it's the valuation, the money. I think he probably wasn't expecting that it to be over the 100 million mark. I was quite surprised with actually how much Chelsea have paid, and they've probably had to go above and beyond to get that. And you can see why Villa have held out, because they probably knew if Morgan had a decent World Cup that they'd have an opportunity to sell him and get the most money. So they probably, I don't think it's because of clubs or anything. I think it's just more because of the money, which was going to be probably given to Morgan Rogers, also as well as what's going to be given to Aston Villa throughout the transfer.
And it looks now as if Arsenal are diverting all of their focus to Bruno Guimaraes, the Newcastle captain. Obviously, a very different profile to Morgan Rogers, but I was told by a reliable source this morning that this deal is expected to go through. It might cost in the region of 75 to 80 million pounds. How big a blow would that be to Newcastle, having already lost Gordon and Tonali, and what will he bring to Arsenal?
Massive blow to Newcastle, massive blow to Newcastle. I can't believe it's only 75 to 80 million, because I really rate this lad. I think you seen that last season when he was out of the Newcastle team, how he struggled. He was, the one. He's been the captain. He's the one who's drove them, who's took them sometimes on his back and made things happen. So it'll be a massive, massive signing for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. I think he'll be fantastic to link up with a Declan Rice, and there's talks that Odegaard might be going out the door. So to bring someone of his quality into what is already a Premier League winning side and Champions League finalists will only make them a stronger and better outfit.
How worried are you about Newcastle? Because there was a lot of angst towards the back end of last season. They ended up finishing below Sunderland, which, as you know, is a cardinal sin up in the North East. I've mentioned the players they've lost. There's still possibility Lewis Hall leaves. I know he's keen potential on a move to Manchester United. Livramento is refusing to sign a new contract. And the idea seems to be to let these established players go and recruit them with up-and-coming youngsters from across Europe. Is that not a little bit dangerous?
Of course it is. Of course it is. But it seems that they've gone down one way now because they tried it that way, established. They've got success, but not success probably what they would expecting or wanted. You know, they got the first trophy under Eddie, and I was there for that day, and they were absolutely fantastic. Isak, you know, Guimaraes, Dan Burn, all people who just stood up at that moment when they needed, and they got over the line and won a trophy, and you think, right, okay, kick on. But they haven't been able to because of FFP. So have they looked at it? You know, there was a lot, as you just said, there was a lot of, you know, words said, shall we say, from outside. There's about what, you know, Eddie's job and everything at the back end of the season, but he come out and said he's had a real good discussions with the board, and it seems like they must have come to this, you know, this reasoning that this is how they're going to go and how they're going to move Newcastle forward within the next years, and sort of, instead of getting instant success, they're going to, you know, work for the success. Bit similar to what Chelsea have done, if you like. So going to be interesting, but you know, to lose they lost Manzambi, I think, to Aston Villa, you know, a couple of weeks ago.
I think they always feared that. I mean, a few reports doing the rounds a couple of weeks ago that he was going to sign for Newcastle. My sources there were not optimistic. They were pessimistic that a bigger club would come in.
Well, there you go. And I think that, I mean, you know, obviously, I think when you look at it, he's gone to a team who are going to be playing Champions League football next year. You know, Newcastle haven't got that. So have they decided now that they're going to, you know, change tact, and now they're going to bring, as you say, recruit youngsters, recruit the best around Europe, and then hope, you know, that they can build something with Eddie, because he's shown and he's proven that he, you know, when he's taken Bournemouth from where they were to get them to the Premier League with a lot of the players, he can coach, and he can do it, and he can make players much better to be at the top level and highest in the game. So yeah, but it's going to take time, patience. Have they all got it? And am I in the board, the fans? You know, Eddie, everything. So really interesting times. But I hope that if Guimaraes is going to go, I hope it's not like the Isak saga where it's going to
just get it done.
Just get it done, get him out, and like get someone moved in.
You mentioned patience there, and as I said, that was in short supply at the end of last season. I was always of the belief, be careful what you wish for, because when Eddie Howe came in, they were looking over their shoulders, Newcastle towards relegation. He kept them up. He led them into the Champions League twice. Led them to their first domestic silverware in 70 years. Is it a bit harsh that Newcastle fans seem to have turned so quickly? Some of them, anyway.
No, I think it's just the modern game now. I think a lot of it is to do with social media. I think when I speak to a lot of the fans up in Newcastle, I don't think that's sort of where they're at. I think they all respect what Eddie's done. So, and as you just said, you've got to be careful what you wish for. You know, we've had it at West Ham where David has left. You know, after having 4 years of unbelievable success in terms of, you know, Europe for 3 years, you know, and unfortunately now they find themselves in the Championship. So as you just said there, you know, you've got to be careful what you wish for, but I think you've got to give Eddie time now. If this is the way you're going, he's obviously bought into the plan, and you've got to give him the time to now go and execute it.
They've got a relatively difficult start to the season,
unbelievable
as well. I'm at their first home game against Liverpool, which is the first Sunday of the Premier League season, August the 23rd. Then they go to Spurs the following Saturday, and we expect Spurs under Roberto De Zerbi to be much stronger. Bournemouth at home. I think I'm right in saying that's live on talkSPORT, by the way. Eddie Howe's still never beaten Bournemouth as Newcastle manager. Then they go to Leeds on a Monday night. We know how difficult Ellen Road can be. So if they start badly, could the dissenting voices get louder?
Of course, and that's just the nature of the Premier League, the game throughout now. As a manager, you know that, but I'm sure, you know, Eddie knows that anyway. You know, you've got to start well, and if he wants the team to be successful, you've always got to have a good start, and you want to be. And he'll be very disappointed with the season what they had, as you just said there. Not only the fact that, you know, they didn't get a European place or a European finish. They finished below Sunderland, which hasn't happened for a long time. So, it's something which he'll be looking at. They would have reviewed as a staff, you know, changed a few things probably, and they'll be looking at it. But I fully expect that, you know, and I believe that Eddie is the right man to be in the hot seat at the minute.
I was quite strong when Gareth Southgate left the England job that Eddie Howe should be the next cab off the rank, the best English contender in my eyes. I stand by that. I still think he'd be a terrific England manager. Do you think what happened last season at Newcastle, if they don't do their well this season, would that hamper his chances?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't, because of what he's done, you know, and as you've just said, what you've named, what he's done, you know, and under difficult circumstances, because, you know, although, you know, because there's a lot of them clubs who are still spending massive when he's gone and beat them and won and been in good places, you know, he didn't beat it, you know, he beat Liverpool in the final of the Carabao, you know, and they deserved, so well deserved on the day as well. So, yeah, no, he shouldn't be. So, yeah, listen. Hopefully we can have a little bit of patience there.
Well, we've got a couple of minutes left on the programme. Let's bring in Robert very quickly. He's a Newcastle fan. Robert, you want to have your say on Bruno Guimaraes and his potential move to Arsenal?
Hi, lads. First of all, Kev, absolute legend up here, mate. You know that.
Thanks, mate.
Second of all, I think it's a fantastic deal for Newcastle if we can get 75 to 80 million pounds for Bruno. Absolutely fantastic. He's 29 years old. He's never been the quickest across the ground. His next contract, he's going to want 4 or 5 years on 200 odd grand a week. Now, Kev, you were a midfielder. Would you be happy paying him that type of money when he's 32, 33, mate?
No, I think you've got a spot on, Rob. I think, you know, listen, we can't take away how wonderfully he's done for Newcastle up there, and how much of a figure he's become and been. But if you're getting this money at this time when you're going through this change, I think it's really good business for Newcastle. Definitely, mate. I agree with you there.
You're not a bit concerned, though, Robert, about the volume of big-name players who seem to be heading for the exit? I mean, it's almost, with the last one out at St James's Park, please turn off the lights.
No, mate, I'm absolutely not. I think it's a cycle. The team's had its cycle. I'm excited for the players that they're signing. We're on a couple of players, but I think if you speak to most Newcastle the last 6 months of the season, Tonali, he's never wanted to be here from the start. We all knew that.
I think we're just losing Robert there, but you get his point. I mean, what would be a good season?
I think he spoke really well, to be honest. I think because I think that's sort of where they've got. It feels like that's when Eddie addressed the press after he'd had that conversation with the owners and the people who on the powers that be. He sort of come out with a renewed energy, and I think that's what we're looking at now, and it's good. And look, they're the best fans up there. You know, they're one club. They'll want the best, and they'll be behind Eddie, and just hope that he gets to a good start so that it can just go off again, because there's nothing better when you see them doing really well.
In one sentence, what would be a good season for Newcastle?
I think the top 10 finish again, with renewed energy, new players.
Kev, absolutely love you. Thanks
very much, mate.
The last 3 hours.
Enjoyed it.
Much less volatile than Martin Keown yesterday. I'll be back tomorrow with Darren McAntony. That should get lively. And coming up next, we've got Paul and Andy on the way. Thanks for listening. This is talkSPORT.
Gabby, well done to Spain. Argentina were an absolute disgrace.
Yes, last night, I felt like I won last night watching. I felt like football was the winner. Anti-football lost. Shame that Messi's probably last World Cup game was a game where his team didn't try and play football. Disgraceful tactics that have worked all through the World Cup. They've bullied teams. And last night, they tried to bully Spain and it didn't work. Finally, a referee who decided to give a few bookings. Could he give a lot more?
Oh, well, how was Paredes still on?
Especially to Paredes and other players, but at least he gave that second yellow card to Enzo Fernandez, who deserved to get sent off. Football's the winner once again, which is what we wanted to see in the Champions League, football being the winner, and also in the World Cup.
Yeah, that Enzo Fernandez, I've never met him. He must be a lovely bloke, mustn't he? After the England game, when he said he likes the English because everyone who cleans and cooks at his house is English.
Wow.
I mean, it's breathtakingly arrogant to say the least. You know, I think he'll get a pretty hot reception at English football
every game
next season.
Every game. Just his character, his celebrations. I see social media last night was absolutely buzzing. Spain winning, Enzo getting sent off was the perfect end to the World Cup.
Yeah, and I have to say that, look, I mean, Spain could